side.
I know you do, because you didn't tell me about it. Come on in. We'll have a little break.
It's also I think that was just me.
Yeah, Travis. Anywhere in the circle. Probably have to grab one of these things. Do you want to sit on this? No? There's bolsters too if you get. Yeah. I think this seat is open.
Can I sit on this?
You can. Does anybody want this one? Anybody want that? Do you want to take that?
There's chairs up here too.
We can broaden it out.
You have another person.
Yeah.
Can you do it? Yeah, this one? Yeah. What's your name? Okay. Just make a copy of paper so that we move it. Just one, two? What's that? One, two, yeah. Nice to meet
Awesome.
Actually, kind of like got a job and then
Morgan.
I know. I blend.
Her hair, I know.
It's nice when that happens. I've heard more times to say, I didn't recognize that. And
It's
then as soon as
fun.
I smile or hear my voice, they're like,
Well, you should just start talking in an accent. And people will be like, you look like a teacher here.
So I looked at different programs.
you're good at that. Like,
This one actually would
Yeah, well,
and everything like that.
welcome to hot yoga class then today, sweeties. Okay. Wow. Fantastic. How is everybody doing? Good. I personally am excited. I always get super excited, a little nervous, because it's just day one, and I feel like I feel you guys. Like the coming days, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I started to feel the energy. And because we started 300 hour last week. This is my sister, Amber. I'm Austin. He didn't know us. We're sister and brother. Well, we are. We started this place together, and well, first of all, thanks for being here. But second of all, what I wanted to finish the idea or the thought was that last week we started the 300 hour teacher training program, which is for some of you, will be the next step from this. It's the advanced teacher training, and we had a lot of the same stuff like the days before. People like the nerves coming, but they know us a little bit more, so they were like calling and texting us like, "Are you sure it's going to be okay? Do I belong here? Is it okay that I do this?" Like all these qualifications, and I think that it's a good reminder to let you all know that if you're here right now, you are in the right spot at the right time, no matter where you're coming from. So thank you for choosing Cameo to be your shepherd towards becoming a yoga teacher. We're honored to be the guides and the facilitators. So yeah, that was an informal introduction.
Yeah, well,
we are just so glad you're all here, and like Austin said, thank you for choosing this program. We have put years into it and developing it, and it's just something we're passionate about, all of us here as teachers and facilitators, and it just means so very much to us that you choose to do this with us, because we know it's you're putting a lot into it. It's a leap of faith. It's not just your money and your time, but it's also your hope, right? You're hoping that this is a good program and that it's right for you and that it suits you and that you get a lot out of it. And so I believe it will be that for you. I certainly know it can be that for you, and I just want to say thank you, because it means a lot to all of us, I know. So welcome. And if you were nervous last night or today, was anyone like unable to sleep? Usually it's me. I don't know what happened. Usually I'm the one who's like, oh, I was up all night.
It was me last night. I took your
Thank you.
lack of sleep.
I see you. I just woke up. So, and this is Kristen. She's your coordinator you've been in touch with.
Yeah. So, welcome. Like looking around trying to put names with faces and I'm having a hard time with it. I feel like usually I have like a good handle on who is who, you know, and this time I don't know. I feel like I know a handful of you, and then some of you I don't know, but I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you. Yeah. Today. Sorry, I don't really ever sleep, so I'm just like, I actually slept last night, so now I'm just like,
You don't know what to do with yourself.
who am I? Where am I? What's happening? Yeah, I don't know. That's going to take me a minute.
Okay. I'm Anna. Kristen and I are also a family thing here, sisters-in-law. And I am one of the extended program coordinators along with Suzanne here. So we'll be dipping out shortly to start extended orientation today as well. So we've got all kinds of new people coming into the space today. And I'm exhausted. Skied really hard yesterday, still haven't recovered, so I'm here.
And Anna and Suzanne and Morgan are also your mentors too, along with the three of us. So.
And I'm Suzanne.
The end.
They already told you about me.
And that's all she has to say about that.
It sounds like we've never done this. I know, usually we're like.
Well, I didn't mean to start it. I really didn't mean to
Austin,
start
you
it.
set us up on a weird
She stumbled us into the start of
Well, let's
teacher
have
training.
let's have Morgan do an introduction.
Morgan, do a better job than us.
I don't know. I'm a little tired. I didn't sleep well, but it's because I did a workshop yesterday, so I was really wound up from that. It was super fun and really exciting. And then I watched Game of Thrones before I went to sleep, and that's not a good thing. Don't do that.
Good dreams.
I'm learning that, that's not a good thing for me. I need to watch like Grace and Frankie, or like Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, or something like that before bed, not Game of Thrones or Walking Dead.
Try Jeopardy next time.
Huh?
Try Jeopardy.
Jeopardy? That's a good one.
one.
Yeah. I'm very excited that all of you are here. I get emotional on the first day, I get very emotional on the last day. I get emotional a couple times in between. But this is really the beginning of something brand new for you. This is really your foundation, and it's super exciting for me to see where you start today and see where you land on that last day. Not just on an external kind of instrumental, learning to cue poses safely and all that kind of stuff, but on that internal level with that deep dive into self with a capital S, right? And so that's what I get super excited about, is launching. You'll hear me say this a few times over teacher training, launching all of you into the world, right? Launching you out there to save the world. We need you. We need you. The planet, humanity, we have a lot of healing to do. And my belief is that yoga is the perfect context. It's the perfect institution. It's the perfect place for that healing to take place. And it begins with each of us on an individual level. And then you take that out there and do the thing, right? So that's what I get really, really excited about is this is really just the very beginning and then just watching where you land in 10 weeks and 10 years, wherever it is. So I'm really glad you're all here. It's super exciting.
She did a great job.
She did.
Those of you, who's doing the hot track? Okay, so you'll get to spend lots of time with Morgan. She is the lead teacher for HOT as well as being a mentor for the program, and she'll be your mentor.
Yeah, and it's not too late if you want to do hot. You're like, wait, what's hot?
Yeah.
You can always do both, still, if you're not sure. So, in a minute we'll go over what to expect today. It's going to be a pretty simple day, so just let's all take a deep breath in and just let it go. You've already done the hard work, you've already decided. Let's do that again. Breathe in. One more time. Breathe in. So up until this point, I meant to say you've already done the hard work. Meaning there's more to come. But today is kind of, today's like a get to know you day, a get to know it day, meaning the program, a get to know the sequence day, and a get to know each other day, and get to know Posture Clinic day. So we're kind of, basically today's big, what's the word, like logistical day. But we kind of have some breakout sessions planned for it to be a little bit more fun. I do want to set the table though for successful training. So I want to open up the conversation with all of you. Or should we do introductions first?
Let's do
Let's do
introductions.
introductions.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you want them to answer?
How about, actually, Morgan gave me this idea. Why don't we say your name? So we'll go around, quickly say like maybe a minute and a half per person, okay? So being mindful of how long we talk for is a big part of teacher training, big part of teaching yoga. So we'll start that practice in teacher training day one. So you have 90 seconds to say your name and why you're here, a little bit about why you're here, and then maybe the wild card will be, what was the last thing you watched? Watched or read? What was the last recreational content you put into your brain, whether it was TV, movie, or book, or anything like that? And so, anybody want to brave going first?
Yo. Hi, I'm Kate. I started because my husband's in the military. This is something that kind of travels with us, and it's kind of progressed and snowballed into something I'm really excited for. So yeah, married, 2 kids, 2 little girls, 3 and 1. They're crazy. One of them's sick. Been sleeping like crap for the past couple days. It's good stuff. Last thing I watched, not by choice, was Netflix Little Baby Bum, nursery rhymes. Yeah, now we sing it in the car. Her favorite's like Wind the Bobbin Up, and she dances, and it's really cute. You need a nursery rhyme on your gal.
Thanks for going first, Kate. Thanks for adding a little bit extra about yourself, too. If you have anything else that you'd like to throw in there, too, feel free, because that's great context to know, a little bit more about it. It fills out the person, so thanks. Which way do you now you get the choice. You said it left and right.
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm doing this training because I just love yoga. I've been practicing since college, so 2010. And I found this opportunity and I got super excited about it. My husband is active duty military as well, and he is deployed, so it's kind of just like perfect timing. All the stars are aligning for this. Except I just found out before he left me with a little surprise. I am 10 weeks pregnant. So I was debating whether or not I would still be able to do this. I was kind of struggling with it, but at the end I was like, namaste. Last thing I watched was Friends on Netflix, because that's just always playing in my house. But that's me.
We've had women go through this during pregnancy before, so it can be done.
Okay. A little nervous, but also very excited.
My name's Ashley.
I am here because, I don't know, I just kind of felt called here in a lot of certain ways. I went through a lot of change the past 6 months and had a lot of things cleared out. And I think this is one of the things I've wanted for a long time that is kind of moving in. And so just trying to let that play out and kind of, I think this is a time for me to kind of prove something, not prove something, but show something to myself more than anything else, just to commit to something and do something with passion because I'm something I'm passionate about.
We're here.
And then the last thing I watched, actually, I'm doing like resolutions, like not like crazy, but for a month each rather than like a full year. And so January, just things I wanted to be more mindful of during the year. So January, I put my TV away. And then there's only one day that I pulled my TV out. It was like a rough day. it was a rough day. It was a rough day, but I watched Spirited Away, which is that was a really good. It's by Miyazaki. It's like My Neighbor Totoro, the same director and like artist, and it was just like if it was something I was gonna watch, it was a good thing. It brought me back a little bit, and that's the last thing I watched.
Thank you.
I'm Zuleika. I am here similarly, like I felt kind of called. Yoga has been my life lately. I just moved here. I say just moved here. It's been a couple months now, but I still feel like I'm in transition. So yeah, this is like my space right now, my happy place. And the last thing I watched was last night's SNL.
Oh, who was on last night? James
I
McAvoy?
watched it too.
McAvoy was, he's like Scottish.
Was it good?
Macklemore. No?
John McAvoy.
John McAvoy.
John McEnroe.
James McAvoy.
No, it
James.
was John
Yes.
McEnroe.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a joke from
And
the whole millennial crowd. The whole millennial crowd's like, who is John McEnroe?
Yeah.
Where did you move here from, Zuleika?
I'm from North Carolina, but I moved from Brooklyn.
Oh, cool. Cool. Awesome.
We also have a lot of people who do the program when they've just been here a short while, and it's like, after seeing people go through that, I'm like, if I ever move, I will just do a teacher training, because it's like community and connection, yeah.
Well, welcome.
Do we want to say what we watched last?
Yeah, what'd you watch?
All right, I watched an episode of Punky Brewster. I know millennials are like, who is Punky Brewster? Who knows what Punky Brewster is? So yeah, I found that you can watch free episodes of Punky Brewster on NBC. So I have a 10-year-old daughter, that's why. So I was looking for appropriate content. And she loves it. It's like the best thing ever. So we had a long day too.
So let's see. The last thing I watched was this little YouTube clip this morning about this guy from Arizona who got mistakenly invited to a bachelor party in Vermont, and he went. I did not know these people. It's awesome. Google it. It's hilarious. It's so good. Like made my morning. They typed in like the wrong email, and he's like, "I'm in." So good. I don't. 16 years and I still don't get it.
Yeah, so I'm with you. The last thing I watched this morning at like 5:30 this morning was Curious George. So there's that. On repeat, all 9 seasons.
If you want to know about Curious George, I'm your girl.
Still curious after 9 seasons?
Like, we're on like the 3rd cycle. It's the only thing he likes to watch. Hi, this is kind of boring. I read the Bhagavad Gita last night. I read it every night before bed because I like to think about what I put in my mind before I go to sleep. But I'm just going to throw in an extra. Before that, I watched Victoria, which I don't know. The whole British monarchy, like, I don't get why it's even still a thing, but that's a whole other story. And somehow I'm sucked into this show about it. I'm like, that's kind of gross.
That's good. I just got back from a road trip with my wife. Her mother passed away in September last year, and so her dad sold us her old car. So we flew back, drove back, and on the way back we were like, which by the way, it's a beautiful drive back from Phoenix. Have you ever done that drive? It's so pretty through Scottsdale. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And we were listening to like podcasts, and then the last thing we put on was, she talked me into listening to Becoming, which is Michelle Obama's autobiography on Audible, and I'm like hooked. At first I was like, why would I listen to this? And I'm just like, oh, and they're about to kiss, you know, like, Barack and Michelle are about to kiss. So I'm so just, I can't believe how much I'm loving it. Michelle Obama's like, pow, she's pretty impressive. But then, like Amber, I also like to put things into my head before I go to bed to kind of program the software in my mind. So I watched an episode of Scrubs last night. Much different. But always a good message, you know, it's like very real. Like, I don't know, this is probably like, I'm like Tommy with Curious George. This is my umpteenth time through Scrubs.
Yeah, I went to bed watching Parks and Rec, so
Oh, okay.
we got it.
Yeah, so The Office and Scrubs are kind of like my go-to.
My name is Donna. I learned yoga in early book. She continued doing it off and on for several years, then became an avid cyclist and runner, but was involved in several bad accidents in both respective sports. So got back into yoga about 7 years ago, and I'm taking this course just to develop my own practice. The last thing that I read last night was, which is appropriate to what Morgan had talked about early, the book is called Churchill, A Walk with Destiny.
I'm Terry, and the last thing I watched was, begrudgingly, I watched something called True Detectives with my husband. I wanted to go take a bath. He had to have me watch it with him. So, get that out of the way. The reason I'm here and the reason I'm doing yoga, I've barely done much yoga in my life. I'm a very busy person, and now is the time to slow down. Back in 2011, I suffered the loss of a child. He was murdered at 24, and during that time, my marriage didn't survive the loss of him either. And so I'm back, I find myself back in a relationship, and he's got a couple of young sons. And I'm finding life's a little difficult, and so I need yoga right now. That's why I'm here.
Thank you for sharing. We're so glad you're here. Thank you, Terry.
I'm Eve, and I'm here because I feel like yoga saves my life, like, every day. So I like it a lot. And the last thing I watched was Tutors, actually. So, yeah.
There's more
which is complete sweat.
sex in that one.
Yeah.
But I watched it that when it came out.
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Becky. I'm here. This was kind of a way to challenge myself, and kind of what you were saying, I'm a very busy person. I kind of have two careers. I work in the space industry as like a data analyst and programmer, and then I also am like an actor, performer, singer person at night. And so I never have time to do anything, and I never breathe, and I never take care of myself properly. And so this is kind of my way of trying to invest in myself and my own peace and happiness and health. And last thing, I tried to read some of the yoga book this morning that we're supposed to read. I read like 10 pages. And then I moved on to watch Janelle Monáe videos. That was in the morning.
Hello, I'm Celine, and the reason I decided to sign up was to do it with my friend here. But I recently lost my mom in November, so it's been kind of busy trying to take care of myself and my kids and the family of the loss, and I just need to do something for me. So I do have that support at home to help out with my 2.5-year-old son and my 6-month-old. So I'm also going back to school, so the last thing I read was chapters 3 and 4 in my history book. So yeah, that's why I'm here, to do something for myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, Terry, I'm a mom too, and that's the scariest thing. So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that, and you got me right here. My name's Rhiannon, and I have been coming to the studio for a few years. I attempted to do the extended with Suzanne, and then I got pregnant, and it was a difficult pregnancy, and then I was like, I'm coming back, I promise, and then I got pregnant again. But then I got my fallopian tubes out, so I'm here. Like, I say things and immediately regret them like that. But I'm really excited to be here. I've done a teacher training. I did my first teacher training like 7 years ago. And found out the studio isn't Yoga Alliance certified, so sometimes you can't really teach anywhere that you're not that. So I'm excited. This has been like a decade coming, I feel like, and I finally feel the momentum and the financial security, and it's like here, and I'm so excited. I have lots of kids at home. I have 3 of them and a husband, so 4 of them. And I do massage therapy, and this is like my jam, so thank you guys.
I'm Sarah, and like you were saying, I just feel like I'm kind of like transitioning from one thing to the other, and I'm a mom. I have 2 girls and a husband, and I just have been momming it for 8 years, so I'm just doing something for me, and I get really nervous when everyone's looking at me, so I should get used to that, but yeah, I'm just really excited to be here and just feel this passion and energy lately that I'm doing something with that, so good to meet everyone.
Thanks. Awesome.
All right, I'm John, and I also get nervous when people scare me. But I've been in sports most of my life, and track and got in bodybuilding. And after some injuries, I got more into calisthenics, and I'm into yoga to more so for the longevity, spare the joints, and still be able to do stuff when I'm older. And also going through some tough times lately. It's like a lot of stress in the job, and kind of trying to figure out what my identity and purpose is. So part of that involves getting out of my comfort zone and try something different, which is this. And also just gaining confidence, especially in people skills, which that'll be challenged here. So that's why I'm here.
That's pretty good. Thank you.
Wait, we seem to have lost the.
I forgot.
Yeah, you totally dropped the ball. It's just laid there. What did you watch last?
Well, Grace and Frankie is actually what I fell asleep to, but I can't fall asleep to it because I just end up laughing through the whole thing. But I'm doing another class with one of my favorite authors, Jacob Norby. He wrote Blessed is the Weird. I don't know if anybody's, you should. And he leads this class, and last night you like tune in and listen to him talk for 2 hours, and then you leave feeling, enlightened and very, so that's what I listen to. Does that count?
Yep.
Okay.
Sarah, what about you?
The Last Kingdom. Has anyone ever watched that?
Yes. Yeah, I think I started it, but is it good?
Yeah, with Uhtred and
yeah.
Is it a movie?
No, it's a Netflix show.
Yeah, my husband's
Uhtred's
watching. I
Jamie.
remember Uhtred. We hear about Uhtred every night.
It's like Danes and Saxons. They're like, it's like England and how it's like coming to be back in the 9th century or something.
It's kind of like Vikings. It reminds me of Vikings, but not as brutal.
Yeah, I say Danes. They're like the wild men that weren't like the religious like Christians back in that day. I don't know.
Yeah.
Good show.
Okay. John, what about you?
Big Bang Theory.
Next inspiration.
Cool. Well, glad you're here. And moving on here to.
So my name is Jordan. I got into yoga at 19 when I partially tore my hip flexor. So thanks, Army. That was cool. I'm here kind of, I realized as we went along, it was strange that everyone was here for themselves, and I kind of, being the group mom that I am, I'm here for other people to share my practice and help them not avoid injury and all those kind of things. So, but I'm also here for the same, self-preservation of not tearing my hip flexor again and things like that. And then the last thing I watched was A Star Is Born last night.
Oh.
Such a good movie.
So good.
The most recent version?
Yeah,
Which one of the 17 versions?
There's like 5 different
there's
iterations of the film. I like this one.
I'm Julia. I've been doing yoga for a few years. I originally started because I still do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I used to hurt myself a lot, so obviously I decided to do something to, make it so I don't get injured as easily. And then this year, I kind of had a job fall through, and I'm getting married in a few months, and so I decided that maybe it's time to start working towards the career that I actually want, and like something that I can actually help, people that go to my jiu-jitsu place and just help the world, like you said, saving the world, and a little bit for myself. And the last thing I watched was either Frasier or Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know. Those are like 2 of the 5 shows that I just watch over and over again.
I'm Felicia. I feel like we're all a work in progress. That's my mantra. Like, we're always a work in progress, and I think that's why I'm here. I'm a super busy person. A couple of people have mentioned that. I'm a runner. I'm a doctor. I'm a mother of 4, including 3-year-old twin boys. So very busy, and Amber and I had to powwow a lot to figure out scheduling so I could make sure I could make this work. But I feel like this has been coming for a long time, and it's finally time for me. It's finally time for me to do something, not just for me, but like you had mentioned, I feel best when I'm helping other people. And naturally at work, that's kind of my job. I help other people, but this is in a different way. And I feel like I'm a resource a lot at work. I'm kind of the fitness person at work. I don't know why, but people always ask me about nutrition and fitness, and I think this will be a better maybe avenue for me to help other people. And the last show I watched was, well, honestly, last night my husband and I fell asleep watching a comedy show on Netflix, Allie something or other. She was super cute. She's pregnant, and it was hilarious. It was long. Yes, it was hilarious, but we fell asleep.
Sean, I'm pretty sure she means the LMFBO guys.
No.
And once again, another throwback. Kids won't understand any of the things I say through this interview. Cool.
Alright, my name's Nicole. I've been practicing yoga for about 10 years, all pretty much at home, watching videos and whatnot. I'm kind of a socially awkward person, you'll learn. And so I like to kind of do it in my own space and whatnot. But in the past year, I've had some really incredible experiences with yoga that kind of dissolved my view of reality and my view of myself. And I just kind of want to explore that more and see if I can kind of introduce different people to kind of those levels of consciousness that I found through yoga, and if I could better understand that, that would be super rad. And the last thing that I watched or listened to was Ram Dass's Methods to Consciousness, Part 2.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
That's it.
I'm Morgan. The last thing I watched was actually a video by my teacher Matthew Sanford on his website, because I was looking for some resources. I taught my adaptive yoga workshop yesterday, and a couple people wanted some more resources, so I was emailing like crazy this morning and watched one of his adaptive yoga videos. And I'm reading a book by Charlene Teo, who's a Singaporean author. It's called Ponti. It's very interesting, very literary, small little story, not like political espionage or big world apocalypse kind of stuff. Just a little teeny tiny story about 3 women at different points in their lives and how their lives come together and are connected. And it's interesting. She's got a really nice way with language, and I like that. So I did read that before I went to that lesson.
I'm Ashley. I was in the extended format and decided intensive is just the way to go for me. I like to throw myself into things rather than drag it out, I guess. I have 2 children, a husband, a very hyper puppy, and I'm a very, very busy person. I own liquor stores and 7-Elevens, so that keeps me on go, go, go. So I'm really looking forward to taking some time to myself as well. Last thing I watched was Cyrano de Bergerac, French play. I don't know if you do. Yeah, it was wonderful. I had never seen it before, so it was quite the experience. And then I'm reading Badass Affirmations by Becca Anderson. I'm all about trying to be positive, find the positive in things lately, because I'm really good at finding the negative. So it's, you know, that's where I'm at. Yep.
Welcome. Well, thanks everyone. It's, you know, part of being a yoga teacher too, we often say, is holding space. And who's heard that before, holding space? What does that mean to you when you hear that phrase?
Space for people to be listened to and like seen and heard.
Yeah.
Like specifically, like what I think of is like talking circles, like a feather circle.
Yeah. Good. So it can be that. Absolutely. What else? Anything else?
You can hold space for sometimes unexpected or for spiritual or divine. Space for things that you don't know for sure will happen. To get rid of the mind chatter.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Did you have something else?
Maybe just holding space, just to be, just for that self to kind of be, just being in that space.
Good. So yeah, it's a practice to be able to hold space for others, and it just takes attention and focus, really. And so when we do check-ins, just remember that you are developing a muscle for listening, for turning your attention away from yourself and onto someone else. And that's really part of our practice with yoga, is learning to develop a one-pointed focus through our practices, but we can practice that anytime, including during this time. And it works well to then hold space for one another, and it helps to create a safe environment that's not just physically safe, right, but emotionally and mentally safe too. So good job with that today.
Well, and it also gives those of you, you know, who aren't like actors and stuff, you know, who are used to speaking in front of groups, like when we do the check-ins, which will be part of our, every time we meet, that's going to be part of our routine, is just to kind of do a quick check-in with the group. Sometimes it won't go as long as this. For chakra nights, it'll probably be about as long as this, because we'll actually be going over our homework for the week. But you know, that ability to, like Amber said, hold space for other people, but also, as you hold that space simultaneously, what energy are you bringing to that space? So it's like kind of a two-part function of holding the space, and then what are you filling that space with? And the way we embody that space isn't just intention, it's also a cumulative effect of the choices that we've made off the mat over the last 24 hours, over the last 48 hours. So, you know, to the fact that, you know, I didn't hear anybody in this group say, you know, oh, I went out last night till 3 in the morning or whatever, like, it's a very good sign. You don't want to set yourself up for success in a way that puts obstacles in your way. Because, you know, our job here is to really be champions for you in this journey, whatever that might mean for you. And now that we've initiated the Sangha, you as well will be accountable to each other in the same way. And yeah, who's heard the word Sangha?
It means like blood, right? Well, song in French is blood, so I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, like some roots there.
Who's heard it in a yoga context?
I have.
Yeah, tell me what.
It means, Sangha means your yoga community, the people that you practice yoga with.
So it can be like blood. Now this is your yoga blood now. Yeah. So it's literally a group of people who come together for a like-minded endeavor. And that's usually of spiritual development of some sort, or service, you know. So this is your Sangha. So this is your community of yogis, in which, you know, there's going to be some, we want to construct this in a way that is going to be useful for you, that's going to be beneficial for you, and optimized for not only your learning while you're here in the program, but also how you do start to deal with those other things in your life so that when you do show up, to hold space and then to interject your energy into that space, you're continually elevating the game. Now before we go further into that though, I do want to review names. So, does anybody think that they can remember everybody's name? Anybody want to give a shot? We could do this, guys. We could do this together as a group.
Who could do a few? Maybe we can patch it together.
Yeah, let's.
Who's got a couple?
This is
Terry.
Donna.
Yeah, there you go. Name the person to your right.
Yes,
Terry.
And it's okay.
Eve. Jordan.
Eve, there you go.
Mom. Sometimes the person to your right's the hardest because you're getting nervous about talking, so you kind of go like, yeah. Yeah.
I know Kate.
Morgan. Okay. There you go.
Jordan. I was like, I think it's Ashley.
Austin, Amber.
Kristen.
Nicole. Anna.
John. Felicia. Jordan. John.
Nicole, Julia.
That is Nicole.
All the
And
J's are
Mary's
together.
there.
There's a bunch of
Julia.
A's.
There's two
Okay.
Ashley.
There's another J right here.
Jordan.
Another J.
John.
And then an S.
Sarah.
Then an R.
Brianna.
Rihanna.
Close, Rhiannon.
Rhiannon.
And then an S.
Selena.
Selena. Celine.
And then a B.
Becky.
That's a great
A.
trick.
Huh? Say it loud. K.
Kate.
A. Happy. A over here. Ashley. A Z. Zuleika. And then an S. A.
Anna.
K. Burr. Burr with an M. A burr in the morning. Burr.
Bernie.
And then who? Morgan and Austin. Yeah. That's
I
everything.
think we got it.
Do we
I
say
think I heard everyone's name.
Let's
Let's do
Do we
it.
do it one more time?
go start it here.
Okay, Donna.
Terry.
You.
Becky. Celine.
Rhiannon.
Sarah.
John.
Jordan.
Julia. Felicia.
Nicole.
Morgan.
Ashley.
Kate. Abby.
Ashley.
Zuleika.
Suzanne.
Anna. Kristen.
Amber.
Donna.
Hey.
Austin. Okay. Cool. So we'll just fret not. When we reconvene on Tuesday night, we'll start the night again with names, and we'll do that for a couple weeks till we get everything in, and then soon enough, the Sangha will be like blood to you. It will be very familiar, and you'll know everybody. So, by the way, before we get into this, if you need to go to the bathroom, feel free to get up at any point. If you're like, you know,
If you need to eat. So there's not a scheduled lunch break today. So you might want, do you want to show them where that's at? Should we do that real quick? We'll do an overview of the day right now so you can see what to expect.
So I posted on the Facebook forum about the manuals. So we do an online manual at this point. If you do want a printed copy, you'll let me know by the end of today so that we can get that set up, and I'll get you pricing and everything like that. But I do have the general information, stuff that you'll...
Yeah.
I'm fully rested today. I'm used to functioning on like 4 hours of sleep, and I got a full. I went to bed at 9:30 last night. I don't know who I am. But so I do have the general information, things that we will go over for you today, so that you can take a look at that. On the little top part of it has 1.2. That's our schedule for today, so you can kind of see roughly where we'll be and what we'll be doing at each point in the day. And then it gives you some of the overview information as to what to expect in teacher training and things like that. So we'll do a little activity here in a few moments, and then we'll go over the contracts and the homework explanation and all that good stuff. So.
And hot and double trackers, anyone who's taking the hot track, whether it's double or hot only, I've got separate materials for you that we'll go over later on.
One thing that I do want to ask you first, though, before we get too far into this, is those of you that are doing both tracks, can you one at a time call out your names so that I can make sure that I have everything right? Eve, doing both. Okay.
Nicole.
Jordan.
Kate. Oh, sorry, Jordan.
My bad.
It's okay.
I was like, we're good.
Kate and Jordan,
Got
okay.
it.
Next. That else?
You said it wasn't too late. What does that necessitate? What does that look like?
So you have to be here on Saturday mornings for an extra 4 hours. There's a couple extra sessions on Thursday nights that you'll be here for.
Four extra Thursdays.
And the
for an
cost
hour.
is...
And they're an hour, they're not the 3 hours.
It's like, was it 600?
It's an additional 550.
550. Yeah.
John.
So just let
You
us
do
know
both.
if
Awesome.
by like
And then you have our 2 extended.
I do.
Or joint.
probably. What you think today?
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I have it right. I've got Jordan, Kate, Nicole, Eve, and John doing both tracks.
Woohoo.
Okay, and then you'll have our 2 extended folks. on
Yes,
the
and I
side.
told them be here
Yeah.
after the class at around 12:45, so they'll be wandering in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. So do you have a clear picture of what the day is then? Any questions so far? Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, actually. She had mentioned she was reading in the book, and are you talking about that same book? Because I didn't read the book yet.
Oh, we'll go over the books and all the homework when we go over. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, we will get that all squared away for you.
So, I do have a question.
Yeah.
It just says hot class downstairs and vinyasa class upstairs, so if I'm doing both, would I just go to either or?
You can pick.
Okay.
I was gonna say, you can choose which class you want to go to, but Morgan wants you to go to hot class.
All right, I need more than
What do you mean you can choose like which class to go to?
If you're doing
We're
both
doing a
tracks,
practice today.
so the
Oh,
practice
today.
it's going to be at the
Oh,
same
okay.
time, the hot and the vinyasa. So those of you just doing vinyasa track, you don't get a choice.
No, come to the
That's so funny.
So let's talk about Sangha principles and norms, what to expect, and how to optimize this learning experience because we want you to get the most out of this program that you possibly can. So first of all, teacher training is a place that you may find yourself. So Amber said earlier that one of the things we strive to hold space for is a safe space to explore emotions. And so this is an interesting concept because on one hand we need to define that by saying what it isn't. And it's not group therapy. It's not a group therapy situation. But I also really commend people who've gone out of their way to share their heart and really talk about why they're here and what they've been through. And that is every bit as important to being a good yoga teacher as getting the most out of this program. So we kind of have this maxim that is similar to what happens in teacher training stays in teacher training. So it's like Las Vegas or Fight Club. If you're familiar with that one. So that's yeah. So the first rule of teacher training is what happens in teacher training stays in teacher training. So can you all give me a nod to agree with that? An agreement that this is a space for you all to explore emotionally and mentally and spiritually what you might need to, but again, keeping in mind that your education is dependent on other people's education to exceed, to reach the state of excellence. So what do I mean by that? When you guys are accountable to each other in the Sangha and the group learning system and format. Yeah.
I think maybe it means in your sharing of emotions, take into consideration that we're all here to retain as much knowledge as we can, so be mindful of your amount of time that you share. Maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So those of you who don't share a lot, I definitely want to see you double down and push yourself to speak up when we ask things like this, when we open it up for discussion. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities for that. And those of you who tend to always be the one who's like, oh, I always got the right answer, I get that. I used to be the one in college who I always wanted the pat on the head from my teacher, so I was always like the first one with my hand up. And
Or it could be just being uncomfortable with silence.
That's true.
So if you're always the one who, when it gets quiet, just realize that the average learner needs 8 seconds to process a question before they can come up with an answer that they're comfortable sharing. So if there is some silence, it's okay to be the first one, but it's also okay to, sometimes being outside of your comfort zone means stepping into
that.
yeah, and it can be challenging. So because I think that can be part of it too.
Know that we're not a competition-based school, so we're not going to rank you at any point in any way, meaning that really...
It happens.
She's a mama doctor, that's all we're about.
Sorry.
Our philosophy around education is that all ships rise with the tide. So really, we don't want to leave anybody behind. So if you are somebody, and we have a lot of different teaching modalities for a lot of different learning modalities. So know that you may be the person who this starts to click with by the time we start the posture clinic today. Some of you, this may not click until week 7, week 8, and that's, trust me, that's okay. What we're really looking forward for from our end is open communication to when you need support, when you need help, you let us know. Of course, it needs to be reasonable, right? But because that needs to be balanced by your level of effortness. So you have to be willing to put in the level of effort. I know that you've already made a huge financial and time commitment to this, but now it's really important to understand that the energy required for you to get what you want out of this is, it goes beyond, there's going to be times where you come in and you don't want to be here. There'll be times you wake up in the morning and you're going to be tired. There's going to be times where you're just scared, or where, you're going to go through the whole gamut of all of it. I can say that one tool to come in, do your check-in, just be like, hey, I'm having a hard day, just want you guys to know, but I'm here. That is a really empowering place to allow yourself to be vulnerable, but also still be willing to develop from that place of being whatever it might be, sad or vulnerable or whatever. And know that this group, I just want to say that not only is our program designed to, like I said, see you all succeed, I want you all to get in on that as well. So I want you to look around the room right now, and I want you to recognize that come April 1st, that you will all be looking around at these people, and you will be graduating, high-fiving, taking your victory lap with each other, okay? By the end of this training, if you've done the work, if you've communicated well to us, and we were able to position ourselves to support you in the way that we've been working to be able to do over the last 8 years, that end of this program should really feel like a victory lap. It shouldn't feel like, I don't know if I'm going to fail or pass, right? So if you start to ever feel like that, part of that is taking accountability, knowing that if you see other classmates getting ahead in the ability to teach or any kind of content and material that you're struggling with, reach out sooner than later. We want you to be supported. We want you to succeed. We want you to achieve the goals that not only that you've set out to achieve, but the template for teacher training, the beautiful thing about this is there's so much more available for you here with this than you can probably imagine. Even with the teacher training I went through, 11, 12 years ago, I got much more out of it than I ever set out to get out of it. And the template of that wasn't as sound as this one is. So what I'm saying by that is you can go as deep as you want with this program. You can get as much as you want out. You just are going to have to be the one to swim back to shore after you go out to the deep end. So just know that. But that's what you all are here for each other as well, to do. To be like, you want to do it? Let's do it. And then just, do it.
Can I piggyback on that really quick?
Please.
Just
Yeah.
for double trackers. It's a long day. Saturdays are a long day. So stay well hydrated, eat well throughout the day, stay fueled up, right? Little legs up the wall, maybe, mid-break, between the hot posture clinic in the morning and vinyasa in the afternoon. Take care of yourselves.
And what about Friday night? What should they do Friday night?
Friday night, you should go to bed at 7 o'clock.
Yes!
Not watch Game of Thrones before you go to bed. Don't do that. But yeah, just, yeah, rest well. We start at 8 a.m., you know, and we start with practice teaches in the warm room. So, you know, a little warm water with lemon first thing in the morning. It's a good idea, very good idea. Get a little hydration in there, get your digestive system kind of revved up, you know, ready to go. So, yeah, we start early on Saturdays and jump right into the key. So make sure you rest well and you take care of yourself.
Yeah, I think double trackers are especially prone to going from, okay, I'm out, so we have this model in learning, right? There's your comfort zone, and that's what we're stepping out of today, right? And going into the stretch zone. That's where growth and learning happens. When you get into that panic zone that's like out here, learning isn't gonna happen, growth isn't gonna happen, you're just gonna shut down and stop. And so when you find yourself, anyone, not just double trackers, getting, and if, some of you won't at all, but if you find yourself getting like, ooh, I'm getting a little out further from my stretch zone and maybe toward my panic zone, let someone know. Talk to your mentor, which you'll be assigned in just a little bit. Talk to, if you know, Morgan, Kristen, or your Sangha. You get to decide who's going to support you, but do it before you get to the point where you're like, I'm done, I quit, I'm never doing yoga again. Because that can happen if you're not managing that all along. And so just keep an internal kind of gauge, like keep an eye on that gauge and how close you're getting to that, and reach out for support when you need it, please.
Yeah, this will require more from you than you might expect, because you know, you're going to be using your brain. You're going to be learning new things. You're going to be using parts of your brain you're not used to, because you're going to be remembering things and then having to use that short-term memory while you're also contextualizing it in real-time life. So you're taking something that you've memorized, but now you have to create a conversation with what you see happening before you in a way that usually your brain's not used to that, right? Like when we study for a test, it's like we store the facts in the short-term memory, and then we get the question and we just answer it. But what if, you know, you're teaching yoga and there's a question on the mat from a student that wasn't something you prepared for, but yet you still have to perform the sequence. You still have to perform as a teacher. All this to say is there's a lot of ways, physically, mentally, energetically, even spiritually, that you will be challenged, and that this program will require your efforts. But I can promise you that there's no effort wasted in this program. Every effort you put forward will be beneficial to you and your future students. So.
Yeah, and one thing that helps is when you're getting anxious or worried about it, visualize yourself at the end of the program and say to yourself, I'm so excited about being proud that I finished this. Because sometimes when we can turn our body's anxiety into tell ourselves it's actually excitement, we can flip that switch and make that change. So just a little tool is to just keep seeing the end of it and your success. Which is a yoga tool. It's called Pratipakshabhavana that you hear a lot in Western now because we do visualization, right, with sports and positive psychology and all these things. But yeah.
What are some other thoughts you're having as we're having this discussion that we're not covering that come up for you that you think to yourself, oh, you know what else I need to make sure that I'm mindful of this to make sure that I'm successful with this program? Let me hear your thoughts. So I'm just going to ask you, what else is going to be required of you to be successful in this?
So,
hang on, let me say the name. Felicia.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good. I'm like a detail person. I'm an organized person. On our training days, do we have kind of a set like schedule each time, or yes? Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll figure out what that is.
Yeah, we'll talk about, I don't think we really thoroughly did the overview, so I'd like to step back and do that because there are whole depart learners who need to see the big picture.
Yeah, that's where I'm feeling like,
so, yeah,
ooh,
we'll get
okay.
right into that. So if you look at your day one overview, today what we're doing right now is the what to expect. This is on 1.2. We'll do an activity of qualities of a yoga teacher. You'll do that with your mentor, so you'll get assigned mentors at that time. And we should wrap up with this whole big chunk of time at 11:40. Kristen will then do contracts and homework explanation, and there will be some talk about schedules then also. And so that's where you get kind of the logistics of things. And then there's a little break, and then if you're doing hot, even if you're double track, you'll go downstairs and take a hot class with Morgan. Vinyasa only will be up here, and you'll go through the sequence so you can feel it in your body. And then we'll end the day with our first posture clinic. We'll split up for that. If you're in Vinyasa, we are going to record it, so if you're a double tracker, you'll get to see the recording, and I promise it's a thing where, like, you will have done integration, the first part of it, so many times by the end that it won't be a big deal that you saw this on video. And if you're doing hot at all, you'll be with Morgan for that first part, and then we'll wrap up. And so you'll notice, like I was saying earlier, there is not a scheduled lunch break. Knowing that you're practicing at 1 o'clock might help you determine when you want to eat. And you're welcome to get up and get your food at any time. Some of you might want to eat after. Some of you might want to feel like you have a big brick in your stomach for your practice and eat at 12:30. I don't know. But it's,
Don't do that for hot.
Yeah, no, don't do it for either. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
But you get to do what's right for your body. So just know that that's always the case, that you can eat, you can use the bathroom whenever you need to. And we just ask that with the space, you treat it with love and respect, so that at the end of the day, always plan on an extra 5 to 10 minutes for putting the space back together and leaving it 1% better than you found it. So that's one of my teachers calls it bathroom yoga, because when she's in a bathroom, she'll just like wipe down the counter if it's wet. Or if there's like a paper towel on the ground, pick it up and throw it away. Think of that, think of doing bathroom yoga only here and leaving it 1% better. So if you are eating, making sure that, you know, you're not leaving dishes for me to do. That's my thing where I'm like, or, you know, just being respectful of the space. So that is the general overview for today.
Amber?
Yes.
Do you want to mention parking? Like the parking situation on the weekends, and how, like where we can park?
Sounds like you've got it.
I don't even know if I have it. I'm still confused.
Well, where we can park?
Yeah, where you can park.
Anywhere in the back of the buildings, including that building down there. You can park anywhere along Austin Bluffs. We no longer have neighbors right next to us or one over, so you can park in front of any of those. As long as it's not an actual business, like the gift card place is gone, so even though they have stuff in there, they're actually gone. But as long as it's not like Zuzu's or the yakitori place, things like that, you can park in front. It's always amazing to me because unless we're downtown, we're like, oh my gosh, on-street parking. But you can park on street. There's this neighborhood back here, and it's just connected through this little alley that you can walk to. It's not a scary alley. Maybe at 10 o'clock at night I wouldn't want to walk through there. But I've walked through there for years, and it's fine. So what you can do is when you turn here, you can turn at Meadowland on where Diamond Shamrock is, and then just take a right on the first street and park back there if you need to.
But plan for it, so make sure, you know, because we have there's not a lot of padding in the content from session to session, so meaning that, you know, every minute we're here, really, we need you here. So be here, you know, for Kristen and I on Tuesday nights, we start at 6, so, you know, I would be here 10 minutes early. I would just plan on being here 10 minutes early. That way you can settle in, you can get your chatting done with your Sangha, and then by the time 6 o'clock hits, it's time to get to work. So, you know, as long as you can. If, you know, some of you might be coming from work and be like, it's going to get rushed, but
5 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but do your best with punctuality, and we do our best too then to get you out at the time we say we will. So it's kind of a mutual agreement just on both sides.
And then just so you know, if you're bringing food, particularly in the evenings, we do have a small refrigerator over here behind the counter. The sink is there, and you're welcome to use that, the microwave, what have you. If you need any type of utensils or anything like that, the drawer right where Anna is standing, those 2 pull-out drawers, the longer ones on the bottom. There's cups, there's bowls, there's utensils, things like that. So feel free to use it. Like Amber said though, just make sure you do your dishes and put them away when you're done using them.
And with trash on the weekends, especially if there's 2 programs going on, as there sometimes are with 300 hour, rather than leaving with it overflowing, it would be great if you could go, there's a mop closet, right? It's just past the women's restroom here. You're welcome to go back there for anything you need. There's towels, there's trash bags, there's the little liners for the small trash cans. Because sometimes after teacher training, the stuff that held the food gets thrown out too, and it just, like, I don't know, it's just nice if we can leave that so it's not overflowing. So, that was, let's get back.
Yeah.
To your question.
So what was my question? my question was how, so let me reframe it a little differently, okay? How can you, so the Sangha, I want you to obligate yourself to the Sangha much in the same way that you would obligate yourself to your students, right? So it's a very different situation being in this community than the way that you would comport yourself at home on your couch, right? Just the same way that when you go to teach, you're upholding and reporting a certain amount of professionalism, right? So really, this whole relationship between each other and the facilitators and you all is based on respect and love and a common goal. So in what ways can we take actions to optimize that?
Don't interrupt each other.
Don't interrupt. Great.
Positive affirmations towards one another.
Positive affirmations towards each other.
Say more about that.
I'm all about positive affirmations lately. That's kind of my thing. You know, if you are struggling with body image, which is something that I tend to struggle with, I found that it's really nice to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am beautiful, I am worthy of love. You know, those positive words that you're telling yourself, if you don't believe it then, you're going to believe it when you keep telling yourself that every time you look in the mirror. And it's just, it's a really empowering thing, I think. It's too easy to dwell in the negative or go to the flaw of something. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If somebody says something that you don't necessarily agree with, it's not be confrontational because we're allowed to believe and think what we believe.
Even with yoga, like, we don't pretend to know everything there is to know about yoga. You know, we're facilitated. We know a lot about yoga, and we love yoga. We've been practicing a long time. We're passionate and dedicated, but, you know, we're going to ask you to take a different perspective on certain things, and oftentimes something's going to come up for the teaching where we're going to have to take a different perspective on things too. So that's a
But
really
I would like to add to that too. It's really important that you walk into this with a beginner mindset, because if you don't, then you are constantly, you're not being open to the experience. So everyone's coming in with a different background with yoga, right? And some of you have done teacher trainings. I had the same thing happen with mine, by the way. I had to do 2 of my 200 hour. And so you know certain things, but unknown when you come in, and just be open to the experience. And then you get to weigh, like, is that right for me? Is that not? You get to decide that, but it will really enhance your experience if you can do that.
open-mindedness.
Can I add on?
Yeah.
Next weekend, we've got 3 hours together to talk about inclusion, which is one of my favorite things and a very unique component of Cambio's teacher training. I have yet to find another 200-hour foundational training out there that incorporates this kind of information into it. So we'll talk a lot about that idea of beginner's mind, I don't know, and holding space, what that means within the context of inclusive language and attitudes and perspectives and all of that. So we'll dig around a little bit deeper into all that territory that they're talking about. hopefully, my goal and our goal overall in this component of the training is to fill up our toolbox, right, with even more information that I feel should be incorporated into every single teacher training out there. But that's what's so awesome, and one of the best components of this particular training is that you get those kinds of tools. So y'all are in the right place. We're all in the right place, which is awesome. So I really look forward to that. It's always really meaningful, or tends to be meaningful for the trainees and for me as well. So that'll be awesome.
Morgan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I keep thinking like morals and respect. I think we're all coming from different paths, and we've all met here, and to hold that respect for everybody. I don't know, does that make sense? Like, have high morals in yourself as a student, and then eventually as a teacher, and stay humble in that, but also hold that title in a noble sense too. So.
I love that word noble too. The book I was reading last night, it's a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, and it's a writer named Eknatheshwaran, and he talks about nobility in our actions and our thoughts, and how one of the most important things we can do to practice respect for others is to let go of our own self-will. And so I encourage you, as you will have people bump up against your own will, probably in this training. It might be just that the way their voice sounds annoys you, or we have all of these things that we either have yum or yuck about. We either like something and want it, or we have an aversion to it. When you run up against those aversions, and if there's someone who tries your patience, or whatever it is, really try the yogic practice of stepping outside your own self-will and loving that person even more than if they were the one you click with right away. Supporting that person even more than if they were the one who you were like instant BFFs or whatever. I think that if we can go into it with that intention, it can really elevate the whole level of the training, and it elevates your experience by the end too.
Yeah, and I think this is a conversation we don't have to put a punctuation on. I think the really important thing is that we've opened up something here, like Morgan will get into much more next week, but even beyond that, for the next 9 weeks, I encourage you all to be considering this. There's a couple of questions that are really beautiful questions that should never really be fully answered, because humans are lazy. When we get an answer around something that's sufficient, we usually stop asking the question. The question is the thing that keeps us active in that world. And we talked about respect. Well, so how can I maintain respect while I'm in the Sangha? How can I maintain kindness while I'm in the Sangha? That's another fundamental thing. And then of course we'll get into the bigger question. Sorry, I'm making a weird face. My eye is twitching uncontrollably. I'm just going to do this. The other thing is what yoga is. And that comes back to that beginner mindset. This whole idea that we have an idea about what yoga is. And I would just encourage you to consider that it's an ever-evolving thing, just like you are. To say, this is what Austin is. Well, that might be true for who I was, but I yet don't know him in the context of who I'm going to be in this journey with you all. And by the way, the great privilege we all have as facilitators is we are on this journey with you. So we want to be held accountable to the same standards that we hold you accountable to. So just know that it works both ways, and we're open to anything that can make us do our job better, which is to give you the information as clearly and as sufficiently as possible, and support you in this journey to make you the best yoga teacher you can be, with all the respect and love in the world.
Yeah, let's do the thing.
Hey, there was one we didn't mention a couple things about. Of course, drugs and alcohol are not tolerated. So drugs and alcohol are not tolerated, and there was another one that I thought of that we were talking about. I don't know.
I was organizing people. Did you do your usual Fight Club talk?
We did do the Fight Club talk. Talked about if it's your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight. That's rule 3.
What kind of teacher training?
No.
Well, you'll
I'm
You
sure.
can post on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. It was
Oh.
the parking lot. I don't know if we want to go over that now or later.
I'll talk about that.
Okay, cool.
Because I gotta get everybody on their safe electronic pathway.
Got it.
All
By the
right.
way, this picture is hilarious.
I didn't.
You didn't think of that?
No, that did.
I love
That
that.
is such that's such a great
Oh yeah,
Look
I
at
love
it.
that picture.
You know, I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna divide you all up into your mentor groups, and this is, so this is something important. Well, they're already in the thing, so.
So we're gonna take them.
Yeah, okay. So I'll divide you up into your mentor groups, and Suzanne and Anna are facilitating right now the extended orientation, so they'll get with their people and let you know how to contact them and everything like that. But your mentor is someone for you to have contact with weekly throughout the teacher training, kind of let us know, how's it going. One thing that I like to have my mentees let me know is what was one thing that really worked for you that that you really enjoyed in the previous week? What's one thing that doesn't work for you or that you don't really connect with? And then what are you looking forward to coming up with the following week? And then of course any issues that come up in between or anything like that. So we'll let you know how to contact us, whether it's via email, text, or Facebook, what have you. And then towards the end of the training, you meet with us for a half hour or so, and you get to use that time however you want to. So, if you want to talk about what comes next for you, or you need to practice the sequence, or anything like that, you need more individual attention. It's really however you need to use the time. So, it's up to you to set that time with us, though. Okay, so this is for you to use us as you need. Cool. All right, so how we break it up is those of you that are doing both tracks are with Morgan. So just to reiterate, just to make sure that I have it straight in my head, because I can't get people straight sometimes. We have Jordan, Kate, Nicole, Eve, and John. And then of course the two hot track add-ons from
So,
Extended.
7 total for hot.
Correct.
Is that right?
Is anyone else doing hot?
So you are, okay, I had you down originally and then I was like. no,
8
she's not.
total then, including extended?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Cool.
Okay.
That's about,
So then Suzanne, her mentor group is going to be Ashley Jones, Terry, Becky, and Julia. Anna's group is going to be Felicia, Zuleika, Gabrielle, who isn't here, but I think there might be a little confusion on that, and then Sarah. Anna is your mentor.
Thank you.
I then have Rhiannon and Abby. Austin, you have Donna, and Amber, Ashley.
This Ashley?
This
Okay.
Ashley.
I know there's 2, okay.
Yeah.
And did we get John in there? Oh yeah, he's
Mhm.
That's right, because he's with Morgan.
So, did everybody get a mentor assigned? Please. Did it the first time. Yes, starting out 2019 with a bang. All right, set myself up. All right.
So, if I may,
Yeah.
your mentor, if you'll check in with them once a week, it's your job to let them know how you're doing, because that way too, we know we're not losing anyone, right? There's 18 people, and we want to make sure that you're doing okay. So do check in with your mentor once a week. You can come to your mentor about anyone, but like logistics kind of stuff, your mentor's probably just going to send you to Kristen anyway. If you're like, where do I put my homework? I forgot. Things like that. Most likely we're just going to redirect you. So she is kind of your go-to gal for those kinds of things. Pretty much all of the things. Yeah. She's amazing. So, activity?
Yeah. So we're going to break up into our groups because Suzanne and Anna are doing their thing. I'm going to have Suzanne's group meet with Austin. You'll all get together with Austin. Anna's group will meet with me, and then my 2 people, Austin's 1 person, and Amber's 1 person will all meet with Amber. Can I get you any more confused?
Well, wait, why don't you do it like this? Why don't you do, how many do you have?
2. No, this is, don't confuse what goes on in here. I have a picture in my head. I didn't.
I might need your help finding them.
Oh, Karen rearranged it there. We might all need help finding them. Okay, so Suzanne's group, huddle up. Where do you want them to go?
Meet on the stage here.
Meet on the stage. All right. Those of you, Morgan, where do you want your
We'll
folks?
go over here.
Morgan's folks go over here.
Over there.
And
Oh, that's a
then
great question.
Anna's group will go right here.
Before you split up, this is a really great question. Donna asked who she talks to about time she's going to have missing. So all scheduling informations go to the coordinator, to that coordinator. Yeah.
To that coordinator.
That coordinator right there. Yeah. I have more just like the day-to-day, like if there's things you don't understand or like things you can help with in terms of anything that could be. Yeah.
And then you are Suzanne. Suzanne. Yeah. So you're gonna meet with Austin. I know it's kind of all goofy and wonky, but it's what we gotta do. Let me call. I gotta call the sign.
I thought it was like 4 days ago.
You guys are great.
Oh, okay.
I know, me too.
Oh, good.
I guess I'll just grab one of this.
Oh, no, that's not true. Everybody's a teacher. So I think you're meeting with Kristen though. I know it's
With Matt?
You're going to stay in this group.
I feel like it's not really necessary. I don't know.
I don't need it right in the mouth. Keep it close, like, slide over if I need it.
Just right this way. It's the second one.
You all? I think
We're with Morgan.
you're, oh yeah, you're the hot people.
No, Kristen
So one
is
thing, I'm
super
going to take a
Kristen.
little Polaroid of each one of
Kristen's
your
still
faces.
So, yeah.
Before you
And Austin is taking Suzanne.
Right, who am I taking?
Your back last.
All 3 of our groups. So like you're 1 person, Austin's 1 person, and my 2 people.
Gotcha. I was out of the
Just, you know, we just like to do it this way. That's what happens when we have the 2 groups going on at the same time, so. So this little breakout group is really
After
paired.
this, I want you to write
You all
the
getting
word
to know each other a little bit better. And
Or we
then
can just stack
coming
them
up
on.
with an idea of what qualities you feel is important for a yoga teacher to possess. And making
Huh?
Your group needs you.
I know, I'm coming.
Okay.
I'll get you guys later. No, just a word. Just one word.
And then
Ready?
I'm so
Scared to death?
You can't pick the wrong color, there's no wrong.
And I get the rest.
Don't feel pressure.
And the colors, snacky.
Yeah, I feel you there. That's what I do whenever I'm nervous.
Do you need paper?
I do, it's for your group, and I think,
You need paper.
Yeah, you all can just sit somewhere comfortably, wherever you're, out there or here or wherever you want to go. And then if one of you will grab a piece of paper from here.
Sweet. Just one?
Yeah, just grab one.
Yeah, and it'll be like a community paper. So ways that we've done this in the past. If you're with Amber normally, you're with Amber right now. Okay.
but aren't we here?
So,
Oh, we're just working together? I thought our groups were combined.
This is gonna be way harder.
They are.
I'm in your group.
You're in my group. Well,
We're gonna join your group, 'cause
The baby.
yeah, I just don't want, I want to get to know people.
Yeah.
we're figuring it out.
I'm going, you know what, just go wherever you want to go. I don't have my keyboard. that I'll
So
have like
how's it going?
things nagging or hanging on me or paying my attention.
Yeah.
Like I'm right here. I don't know why, but I don't have to worry about other
You
people.
have a much longer break between the
Keeps like
Can you explain it?
like selling like
I work,
Oh no, these aren't mine.
Oh,
I know. Okay.
I will get this started. I don't.
First question would be, what is the quality? This exercise is called what?
So we'll get together and kind of brainstorm the qualities that we feel are important.
As a group, we'll discuss.
And so ways that we've done it in the past is someone
And it
writes
can
down
be
the things
whatever
that
you
they
think.
throw out.
There's no right or wrong. I mean, there's probably wrong.
You
There's probably wrong, but I doubt it. You'll like.
When I say artistic representation, it doesn't have to be like this thing.
So here we are at yoga, blah, 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 and then some more stuff that
Yeah.
I say, announcements, yada, yada,
So
yada.
what are some of the qualities of the yoga teacher?
Exactly. Yada yada yada, whatever.
Yeah, so no,
you'll
not everybody,
discuss
yeah, it's not
what
everybody.
what you think makes a good yoga teacher, and then
So
somehow,
we'll all
as a
all
group,
contribute
you'll decide how to
to the drawing,
represent
the
that
ideas,
and
all this stuff,
Yeah.
so.
and you get to decide.
That's wrong, so I'm happy to take notes.
So, good.
Okay, there we go.
And we're throwing out.
I'll leave you to it. She's gonna be
What
very
qualities?
fast.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Do you think are
So anybody?
Coffee.
Sure, that's how I was, honestly. When I took teacher training, I was like,
Oh, I can
I'm
do
doing
this.
You, I go back and forth all the time. That's a great
Just so you
idea.
know, we'll have.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah. There's
So,
no, yeah.
and then, you know, we'll
Joining us
have
as a feel comfortable
comfort
with
to
us
what I'm doing.
Right, yeah.
Not yet.
So,
Maybe I will.
but even when you are, you're here to learn.
Oh, yeah, so
I know, are you in here?
I've done a lot of practice.
Yeah. So what does it take to be approachable in a lot of ways?
Approachable, okay, do something.
Do
something. Yeah, like, and this can really look any you want. If you yours, symbols, whatever.
So, let's start wrapping some more up.
Yes, that one's so important. Oh, gosh, yeah. If you have to adapt every single festival you ever. It's the
That's exactly what I'm
Okay. That's not gonna happen. We're not gonna focus on twists today.
Yeah.
Yes, more about that. So accepting, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go to a yoga class and feel like it's cliquey. You know, I want to be accepted, like the people
I love that
with my
so much, because there is always the negative side of yoga teaching where it's like somebody's trying to develop all these things that really just, you know, and it's like we really do want people to be empowered and to contribute us, right? I love that.
Like greet everyone? Yes, exactly. Like when I come here, I get greeted just the same way the last person did. I know
Like the word is judgment.
easily and naturally, but for a lot of us, it's, you know, it's a struggle, right? Sometimes. So having that lighthearted,
I really do. I like the information that's given at the beginning of the class.
What's happening, and I'm gonna have fun with it, and I really try to make it
Draw
like
this out, you know?
for myself.
Yeah.
Healthy food for
I don't know, pull that innocence back into the practice.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it the way you describe, I'm saying to myself, I want my yoga teacher to be knowledgeable. I want this person to know what they're teaching me.
Because your brain is.
You know, on the website, it says that.
I think kids do, it's partly confidence. You think confidence.
I was thinking that students kind of falls under like understanding.
That's exactly what
Been to a couple classes that the teacher wasn't,
so that I can
but
understand it.
you
almost hear like where they are in their practice, and so it like you puts it in your mind for a second.
Oh, really?
Like, oh, am I, even if that's like their whatever, for a second, you know, you touch it.
Yeah, overload some work and.
Right, yes, then you're right, you are.
I think something I noticed a lot in season two.
Because a lot of people tell me, they go, what accent do you have? He's like, I'm just reading this.
Yeah. I'm from the Missouri side.
Yeah. My sister, my other sister.
But I think especially for new teachers, I know I'm going to be this week getting out
Do you have a
and making sure students getting out of that space and seeing students struggling. I don't know if that's a right word.
Yeah, Julie, what other thoughts do you have?
Talking, I was thinking, when you walk, like you can feel the energy and how people are feeling and how to roll on. So you might have something planned, but you can write it.
I feel like we could even bring like the
Team
years,
years.
like a physical too, because we are and being like short on our attention.
My shoulder's really rough.
We're flexible.
Yeah, that idea of flexibility comes in.
I was huge for like because I just got back from deployment and a lot of the people I worked with were like, yoga was like a cuss word and like, oh, like I can do that.
Top inspired.
I sit at a desk, I'll have this.
Like a chair person, Terry?
Yeah. I can put my foot on it.
Where is your breath?
There's things that you
Oh, yeah?
can't do.
Yeah, that's good.
Let that exercise flow and, you know,
Calm, but calm.
whatever you're
Yeah, I
going
like
to do.
In your book.
Because that allows them to be calm, so that when
You're not just there for
calm, they remember, oh, it wasn't even the teacher who got me out of that space, it was me with my breath, it was me with whatever power, whatever. Yeah.
Rather than, it's actually harder to kind of reel in the super hyper-flexible people because they lose that muscle engagement. They worry about that in your book and for me, it's well,
And sometimes in that calmness, it's like,
handed it for you.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's exactly.
I don't know what better word for this is, like authority. Like when a yoga teacher.
Good, awesome.
It's like knowledgeable, like they know their stuff.
That kind of radiates to the
They're not,
when you're around someone that's really.
they're not condescending, and sometimes authority can be also rigid.
Versus when you come in a room.
So I don't mean that. I mean just that there's somebody you can trust in space
Where you're so safe.
It's very good.
One of the things
It's
that we
the word
talk about
trust,
chapters
yeah.
is, I think is good.
Who you can trust.
Your practice, you know what I hear is
To do their best.
It's for your students.
Accommodating.
When I walk out, I say, okay,
if you're having
depending on your level right now, what are your practices? I'm gonna do this or this or this.
Yeah.
Variation.
That's awesome.
non-judgment,
Right.
and all of that.
I got to ask you about your
How you can form that space.
Oh,
for
I
yourself.
really just got this in my mind.
Exactly.
Just trying to inspire me.
For someone else. And then you
That's
said
that's
that
just very lazy. I like cacti. Well, I really like Joshua Tree in particular.
Very cool.
You want to. They're cacti.
You've got a really good list.
Really good list. So,
What do you think, how do you want to tie
they
all
just
of
like
that
go
information
information
together?
together. They just are so alien and visual and I mean there's so many things that are just
Carl is super
inspiring.
fun because
That's awesome.
Maybe put that on the Joshua tree. Like a yoga teacher. Maybe, actually, maybe that's what we.
Self-aware.
I totally appreciate that.
You know,
At the door.
I know about
And
Joshua
you have to
Tree
actually
because
acknowledge this is what it is.
Handle letting about all
kind of
the same time.
And they rely on each other. They all, they're all in like this.
There's like a story of those things happening.
Yeah, we're along the line where I just came over into the like Los Angeles Valley kind of area. They saw the Joshua trees and they thought they looked like the biblical story when he goes around Jericho.
Oh, yeah.
All swelled out of people dancing and celebrating. That's what it looks like a whole thing. Celebrating, so called the Joshua trees.
Oh, time to, well, let's start drawing Joshua tree then.
I should not be in charge of drawing a Joshua tree.
I all want us to draw a little something. So one thing we can do is put the words
Kind of all the elements, right?
as separate things. We're all one.
Self-awareness is so
Yeah.
We could do all the elements.
I'm gonna look up
And what do we have, like,
guide or.
so we're not just.
Actually, I might go. I can do it.
kind of
In the middle.
All over the place, yeah.
Right, like,
You know,
the
it's
words
just
down.
out of
and
a
so-
harsh environment, that idea of technology becomes even more.
Absolutely.
Like Austin and Amber said, I don't know. So look at me and be like, this hurts.
Okay. Cool.
I don't know. Well, obviously a doctor.
Cool, so what if we just did this?
So what is the sun?
I was thinking of just, I don't know if
And
mindful
we
or
can
kind
either
of
make the words, the little pine needles coming off the top.
Now let's draw the trunk and then the branches and then the
It's like butterflies.
So
approachable knowledge.
Here now.
And it's Julie, yes.
Non-intimidating, connecting, creativity, adaptable, empowering, fun, playful, confident, attentive, intuitive, touch, grace, analogies, mental
Well, what's
image,
the
or
core
visual.
word, teacher?
So are you grouping them by like
Trust.
elements?
Trust,
Is that what
trust, even
you
sound.
said when it's done? So there's some of those that do seem fiery, right? And some are more
Yeah,
airy
good,
and some are
nice.
watery, so you can almost,
So true.
are you writing them on here?
You hold the pen.
You don't have to, I'm just.
Okay.
Heck yeah, keep drawing.
So.
Oh, you draw the next one. You draw the.
We've got 3 minutes.
Actually,
So, don't
everybody
overthink
did.
it, but we might, you know, want to, if you're going to add words, some kind of routine words while people are drawing, kind of.
That's a long one, that's good.
What is the plan?
I don't know. Is it, how do you even how do you break down adding like the kind of.
Okay.
Oh, well, I'll be using green.
Anybody else want to add?
The visual is perfect, like that's the time. Go for it. So what does
That's
that
okay.
do?
You don't get graded on this.
You can do a stick figure.
It's all good.
Close enough.
Close.
And then also just so you know, we'll need two persons.
There's two
Ones represent.
I think there's 2 seasons.
So, like, let me like last one. Like, doing it goes first. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I think you got called.
That's too steep. What do we do with
Like,
describe and explain.
Oh, we're gonna come back together like.
So one person from the group or a couple people. You know, I kind of collaborate, kind of
2 minutes.
just explain a little bit about what we did.
Okay, where am I lost?
A-B-L-E.
Why don't you draw like water horizon? Yeah, I want that, I have on my page like 3 different words. I think so, I like within the values.
They're doing like trees and water.
That's my creativity.
If you give off the impression that you're perfect, then it will be very relatable to others.
Oh, great. And I think that's really met younger teachers where just energetically and verbally, like the language.
Okay, so if we're gonna add words, it's time to start adding them. I know, it's like, if we didn't time this though, it would take all morning.
Yeah.
But we're not going for perfection. So we'll, one of you read out the words to them and kind of argue on boundaries.
So can't give too much. Okay, so find yourself out.
So you need to be,
Set boundaries for yourself. I don't know a word for that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's that holding that space for yourself too. Like you have the class and you're holding that space, but you have that space that is your space.
You'll hear a lot in teacher training about how important it is to people find their own analysis, especially if you say teachers in their class. It's easy to kind of
Yeah.
and
I've totally been to know
you'll hear us say this too, that you
Oh, yeah.
for your students.
Yeah.
So
after
just like all of these kinds of think that it's kind of the inverse, but really
It's funny how that works.
so that
So you were an art major?
we'll talk more about that.
Are you are or where? Where at? What's your favorite style of music?
Yes, I guess.
Yes, so Eric, that you have to put your mask on. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then anyone else can chime in here.
Okay.
Trying to keep away from the 6-month-old.
Okay.
You need it. You need it. You need it.
Boundaries.
1 minute. By the way, that wasn't 2. That was like 3. So 1 minute for real.
Real quick, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Just knowing.
Let go of perfectionism.
They might be coming to you with a million questions.
How do you expect it?
Yeah, it's right on. If you need to give them, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that gives a measurement too.
We can be over there.
Is that like this week?
Yeah, that's
I
right.
have a bird on my side chart.
Okay, so when we come back, somebody can present this and explain what it is. We can do it all the group or one person. How do you want to do it? Do it all the group.
Be here for you, Bert.
Everybody's finishing it.
Oh, we're doing this.
And then we'll present it to everybody else. What? I said students. So somebody can hold it and then you say a little bit about it and we go over and say a little bit, say a little bit. How do you?
Sounds great.
Yeah, let's see.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds great. You're like, okay.
Nice job, ladies. And then, just know that, so Suzanne, so you will, you'll exchange contacts with Suzanne.
All right, come on around. So we'll just go down to our spots.
Feel free to contribute also.
I feel like you have to wait.
Kate will say something if you want to present with me.
We're all.
Collaborative effort.
Also, person to go to with stuff when you're maybe like on a Thursday, you're not a teacher training. You're working.
I don't know where
Yeah, we'll just go back.
I'm here for, we're all here.
Did you all have the marker holder? Could you bring it over? Is it gone? Morgan, did you move the marker holder?
Yes, I put him in, oh yeah.
Thanks, though.
I thought it was being so efficient, right?
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna present your little art pictures to the group. So you'll pick one person from the group to show us what the picture is and kind of give us your ideas behind it. Let us know who was in your group, so you'll have to remember names maybe, or you can all chime in. Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first. So, we had Sarah and Felicia, sorry, and Abby and Ashley. What's your name? Rhiannon. And Donna, right?
Dawn.
Dawn?
Donna. Yeah.
Sorry. We'll get it together.
You get the first half, I'll get the second. So we did this bad boy. and we have this yoga teacher in the middle, and then we did all 4 elements on the side. So we have fire, earth, water, air. And then we came up with words that kind of related to each of those elements. And each of these words kind of represented what we felt like a yoga teacher is and should be. And she has the full list, I don't know.
Do you want me to read the full list? Or do you just read the ones that are next to that?
Okay, so sun was fun, playful, confident, and confident touch. Earth was growth, so constantly growing in your practice and going back to the beginning. Is that kind of what we said? And then being approachable. And then our air was breath, connectivity, and creativeness. And then our water was inclusive, intuitive, and adaptable.
Gold star.
Gold star.
My turn. So I was in a group with Becca, Becky, and Terry, and Julia. And we drew a Joshua tree, and the words that we included in there were what we thought about the teacher and what we should be. We have the trunk is trust, engaging, calm, accommodating, accepting, inspiring, loving, patient, knowledgeable, authentic. And then we've got the roots that have grounded the tree in, and we should be grounded and rooted. And then of course we had to include the Cambio birds up there. And I can tell you more why we chose the Joshua tree.
Yeah, the Joshua tree in particular we chose for 2 reasons. First of all, if you've ever seen a Joshua tree, they're really erratic and kind of eccentric, and like they don't. If a cactus could care, they don't.
Exactly. It just grows every which way
Yeah,
that
every
it
which
wants
way.
to.
And what's cool about them too is that they're like a community cacti, and that they only grow in these like big patches together. And so that's what like Joshua Tree National Park is kind of just like a huge patch of them that all grew together. And so there's something about the whole Sangha, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we're trying to kind of grow in our own direction in whatever way we need to as part of this community nonetheless. I thought that was apt.
I'll go. I was in a group with Eve, Celine, John, Jordan, Nicole, Morgan. So we did a word collage. I'm going to say that because we were, I think, just going to say that I have a feeling we might be more like an analytical group. We've got some military and stuff. But we brought art in. We did. Pulled it in. So we have approachable, non-judgmental. We have the ability to listen and understand, compassionate, and meet others where they're at. Peaceful presence that radiates to the students, authenticity, self-forgiveness, mindfulness, just giving ourselves some grace and knowing that we're human, we're not, on this pedestal. Discernment, so how much to share and how much to hold back. Respectful, we have strength, balance and boundaries, and self-awareness. Thank you.
What do you want to do?
Want to take pictures of people?
Okay.
I'm gonna come around and take pictures.
Okay. Kristen's gonna do her thing.
Yeah, I
We're
just
gonna
take a
talk
quick.
about homework and
This
all
is
that.
so. Let me just say, I'm gonna take a picture. I'm gonna give you the picture. It's a Polaroid. At the bottom, you will write one word of affirmation on it. So think about your future self that will be graduating. Think of a word you want to give that person in 10 weeks. So, for some of you, an appropriate word might be courage. For some of you, a word might be grace, or love, or kindness, or you got this. I mean, it can be whatever. Whatever you can fit on that one part, you can really write. But then, when you're done with them, after Kristen's done, we'll just set them in a little stack right here, okay? and then I'm just going to throw them in the garbage. So just smile.
That was a good time.
What's that?
Just smile.
Oh,
no, we don't.
I know, it was a good time.
Now you're going to have to get her
There you go.
My eyes are teacher closed. Always. My eyes are always teacher training.
What? There we go.
I feel like my eyes were hella low.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm good.
I'll be back with you after your class. So I'll see you over there. Cool. So gracefully.
So, while Austin's causing a distraction over here, we're gonna. You're good. Sorry. We'll talk about the homework, the expectations, the schedule, all that good stuff. So, to start out, so we have moved our manual and most of our materials online because previously we would print everything and it was like a massive amount of paper that we were just going through, and we decided this year to be kinder to Mother Nature and kind of keep everything in one main spot. So that said, if you do want a manual printed, you're welcome to take the PDF and print it on your own, or if you would like to have me have it printed for you, I've got a cost breakdown. The printer that we use kind of gave me some numbers as far as how much it would cost to do certain amounts and things like that. So if you do it in black and white, it could be as little as like $5. So we'll talk about that a little bit more once I have an idea of who wants what printed. That said, the rest of the information will be online, and it's really important to join the Facebook forum if you haven't already. And if you haven't, and I know, John, I got to get you your email, your welcome email, and all that stuff, so we'll do that here in just a few moments. But so everything is online. We do use the Facebook forum as part of our weekly discussions, so there will be some things on there that you'll need to answer and things like that as well. Okay. If you're not familiar with being on Facebook, or if you're anti-Facebook, which I tend to be, and you don't want to be on there for safety reasons or things like that, you're always welcome to create like a fake account, and then just let me know what your name is so that I know to let you on, because we've had it in the past where military spouses and things like that, or law enforcement spouses need that level of privacy. So if that's the case, let me know and I'll get the some random name listed on there. But as far as the rest of this goes, we'll talk about manuals and things like that in a few moments. But if you look at the paperwork that I gave you on that very first page, that 1.1, it says Teacher Training Overview. And so it gives you an idea of the schedule, just to reiterate the schedule in case you're not familiar. So 10 weeks for the 200-hour level certification. Those of you that are doing both tracks, you come out of it twofold. You get a 200-hour certification, just general yoga teacher certification, but then you also get a 40-hour continuing education certificate for the track that you add on.
No, I'm just listening.
Oh. So, you'll have those two things. So, Sundays are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every Sunday, and Sundays are comprised of our various workshops. So whether it's, intro to meditation or Ayurveda, different things like that, ethics and inclusion, those are all housed on our Sundays, sorry. Saturdays are dedicated to learning the postures and practicing the postures. So hot track, you're here 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then vinyasa track 12:30 to 4:30. Okay, so those of you doing double track, you're here, like Morgan said, for a long day, and she'll have some more stuff to talk to you about when you break out into the group with her. Tuesday evenings, it's every Tuesday evening from 6 to 9 p.m. And like Austin mentioned, we have jam-packed schedule that day. So 6 to 8 is for the first 7 weeks. I can't.
What? I'm just looking at you.
I know! It's like,
You're doing good.
thanks.
Yeah. 6 to 8.
6 to 8 is, for the first 7 weeks, is our chakras. So we go through chakra 1 through 7, and we discuss that. What those evenings look like, we'll do a check-in, like we talked about, and then we'll do a meditation based on the chakra that we're discussing. And then we'll have a little talk, a little Dharma talk about the chakra itself. And then we have fun activities to kind of incorporate everything together. Usually I'm bringing you some kind of snack. Good snacks, yeah. Although I won't be here this Tuesday. It's my husband's birthday, so he'll be mad at me if we don't do our usual dinner. So I'll miss you this Tuesday. But you're in good hands with Austin and Suzanne. Some Thursdays, so I believe, I don't have the calendar right in front of me, but I believe it's 4 Thursdays at the very end of the program, and those are dedicated to practice teach time. And again, they're 6 to 9. So we'll divide it up between hot and vinyasa, of course. And then there's a few Thursdays, there's 4 additional Thursdays that the hot track will participate in from 6 to 7 p.m. And those are listed in the materials that Morgan has for you, as well as on the calendar. With me so far? Okay. All right. And then we do our overnight trip to Shoshone from March 23rd to the 24th. And typically for that, we meet here at about noon, a little bit before noon, and we carpool up, spend the night, and then come home right after lunch. So it's like a whirlwind 24 hours. We'll talk a lot more about that in detail as we get going. There is, in the manual, there is a document there, what to expect or how to prepare for your Shoshone visit. But like I said, we'll talk about that a lot more in detail because it's a fun, fun trip, which I'm not going on again this time.
Stuff.
I know, that's up here. Saturday, April 6th, which is the very last Saturday before we're finished, is your friends and family classes. So hot track, the class itself is from 8:30 to 9:30, although you'll want to be there at 8. And then vinyasa, the class is from 1 to 2 p.m., although we'll be there at 12:30. That is it for that day. So it's not, unless you feel like you need more practice or want to practice, you're welcome to use this space. It will be open for you, but it's not a required time to be here beyond the friends and family classes. Makes sense?
Kristen, on the calendar, I thought it said 9 to 10 for the class itself.
That could be.
Okay.
Go with the calendar.
Well, go with the calendar?
Go with the
Okay.
calendar.
That's what I put on our little
Yeah.
schedule, but, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thursday, so, sorry. We're trying to, Extended has been using the electronic version for a while of the manual, but this is our first run through with intensive, so forgive us if we need to figure out a few things that we didn't think about. So, pardon me. But, yeah, it's just, it occurred to me, I'm like, because they're learning about that now.
Yeah.
They won't be ready for this afternoon.
This is true. Where was I? Friends and family. Yeah. So go with the calendar.
Okay.
Go with the calendar.
Okay. I'll double check it just to make sure.
Yeah. Final Sunday, 4/7, not 4/77. We're not taking teacher training for that long. 12 to 4. So this Sunday is different than the rest of the Sundays. So all of the other Sundays are 10 to 4. This particular Sunday for your teach out, the last class is 12 to 4. And that's our final teach out and potluck celebration. So a lot of times we go beyond the 4 o'clock mark for the potluck celebration. So if you need to plan that, if you need to go, that's always fine as well. But we will be done with the teach out portion by 4 o'clock. Okay. And then week 11 is kind of like a shadow week. It's where you have a chance to complete your final assessments and your exit interviews and any last little straggling things that you might have lingering, like makeup work and things like that. But you're not here physically in class, okay? Unless you take a yoga class. But questions about the big picture schedule? All right, moving right along. So you've got your required reading. So 3 books for Vinyasa, and then you add an extra one for Hot. Yoga Beyond Belief and True Yoga are 2 books that, if you look here, it says see online schedule for meeting dates. So there you'll discuss them in book club format. So you'll have the book read by the date that's on the calendar. And Suzanne will lead the book club for you, and she'll have some questions, discussion questions and things like that, so you can discuss the book. And then, did you have a question?
Yes, there's a different, you said there's different like due dates for each book. Okay, and that we'll discuss later, or that's
Well, the dates are on the calendar. So, yeah, so the email that I sent everyone has the link to the Google Calendar. That is set. That is where everything is for you. So I can look it up for you, but I believe it's coming up the 2nd week in February. So maybe the 10th?
For most, like for all, like it's gonna be in that week for like all 3
No. No. They each have their individual dates. So Yoga Beyond Belief is the first one that you want to have read.
Okay.
True Yoga is the second one. And then one book of your choice from the suggested reading list. And what you do with that is it's an oral book report. And that one is on March 31st. Okay. So it's a 5-minute oral book report. When we talk about that, it's you're going to let us know what the book was, what it was about, what you liked about it, and who you might recommend it to. Super simple. You're not required to do any kind of, PowerPoint presentation or have handouts or anything like that. You're welcome to if you want to, but you have 5 minutes. So keep that in mind. And then for the hot track, you'll need Hot Yoga Masterclass. And Morgan has different excerpts that you'll read to prepare for your practice teaches and posture clinics.
And I do have an additional handout for you to read between today and next Sunday for the inclusion module, so I'll get that handed out also.
Questions? So looking at homework, reading, of course. So reading these texts that are listed here, but also we use, like I said, we use the Facebook forum, and each week on Monday, I will post a question of the week, and they'll be numbered. And so it might be an article that I post online for you to read. It might be an article that's in the manual for you to read, and I'll have specific questions around each of those. That is part of the required work that you need to complete in order to get your certificate at the end. So how that works is I post the question, and then underneath in the comments, you just comment your answer, okay? At the end, I do go through and check off to make sure that everyone has answered all the questions. So if you miss a week, make sure that you go back and get the answers in there so that you don't get behind. But really, it's just a way to keep the discussion going in between meeting times and keep that topic fresh. A lot of times it'll be a question that's pertinent to a workshop that you have coming up on the following weekend. Cool. Weekly individual journaling. We will do a lot of the journaling portion in the chakra nights, but the journal is something for you to have, right? It's not something that I'm going to collect at the end, and it's rarely something that I'm going to ask you to see, okay? So does anyone here have a regular journaling practice? Yeah. Okay. It's something that's really important for you as you go through teacher training, because you're going to have all these moments. When I talk about the 10-week intensive, I kind of always talk about it as like yoga through a fire hose, because we're going to be spitting so much information at you all the time that you're going to want to have that journal to say, oh, this happened, or this came up, or, you know, a teacher mentioned this, and I really want to remember this. So the journal is your way to have that and reflect back on it, you know, and just kind of keep yourself on track as well. So if you don't journal regularly, I highly recommend it, and it doesn't have to be like any, you know, free-flowing thoughts or anything like that. It can be, but it's just something to kind of like, I had an aha moment, you know, a breakthrough, or, you know, this is stupid, I don't want to learn about this, whatever it is. You'll have those moments. So keep that. We just talked about the weekly community journaling via Facebook. Yoga practice teaching and observations as assigned. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. I want to kind of give that its own section because that gets all kinds of wonky. The big part of that, though, is practicing the sequence as much as possible outside of class. So we do give you dedicated practice teach time, and you have the posture clinics, and this is about the time that I start to get hiccups, so, you know, we have the dedicated practice teach time and the posture clinics where you have an opportunity to work together and practice the sequence and learn the sequence. But I can't stress enough how important it is to do that outside of time that you're here. Okay, the more you can do it, whether it's saying it in your car so that it becomes almost automatic, saying it in the shower, talking your dog through it, what have you, getting it out, getting the words out of your mouth now, as soon as you can, the more that you can is going to really foster your growth as a teacher. And then what we can do in those practice teach times is really help you fine tune it and bring out you as the teacher.
Very different. It sounds awesome and perfect in your head. And then you go and open your mouth and it's like, right? So it's a different mechanism of the brain. So like Kristen said, out loud. Talk to your dog, talk to your cat, talk to your kids, in the car, doing dishes, walking the dog, wherever, right? You are talking out loud. Got it? My hot yogis are going to get sick of hearing me say that. Out loud, out loud. Very different mechanism of the brain there. Okay?
Very, very important. And know that this space is available to you so that if you would like to, another way to use the Facebook forum is to get together and practice teach. So the earlier you can do that, the more often you can do that. Get together. We've had students open up their homes so that people can come and practice teach. This space is available to you. Just check with me first, just so I make sure that we don't have like a one-off community event or something like that going on. But if the studio is open, we open 30 minutes before any class starts. As long as nothing is going on in this space, you can come in and use the space as you want to. Yeah. Like I said, use the Facebook forum to organize that, to get together, to support each other and things like that. The big thing that we ask though is be mindful of classes that are going on and don't be out here like hooting and hollering and saying it out loud. Well, no, Shavasana. I mean, say it out loud, but not, you know.
Whisper it.
Yeah, use your inside voice.
Indoor voice.
And then, of course, your oral book report and completed final assessment and exit interview. Again, those are online. They're Google Forms, super easy for you to fill out, and super easy for me to keep track of. So, questions, comments, concerns so far? Are we all awake? Okay. I always get to do like the boring stuff, so I never know. Okay. So, costs and materials. The books, the texts that you'll read are additional. We do have some of them here, so if you still need to grab them, let me know. We can take care of that. Your curriculum. It looks really nice in my head. Your curriculum manual is online. Like I said, if you do want a printed copy, we can get that going for you. Additional cost for that would be about $5 to $10, depending on how many of you want them, if you want color, black and white, things like that. Your journal or notebook is additional. Again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Handouts, we cover all of your handouts unless you make them for your book report. Like I said, not necessary, but if you want to. Your Shoshone retreat is covered. Yoga Alliance membership, yoga instructor insurance is additional. Laura will talk about that more in depth once you get into the business of yoga workshop. She'll go over all of that good stuff for you. Of course, if you do have questions about it before, don't hesitate to ask. Workshops, book study, and videos are all covered. 10 classes taken at Cambio during the duration of teacher training are always donation, but we ask that you take 10 classes. And the reason behind that is, number one, again, to keep that yoga fire going. But number two, yoga teachers tend to fall into this trap where your own practice falls by the wayside. And you teach so much that you end up not practicing. So getting that habit established early on while you're learning to teach yoga is really, really important. Like I mentioned to the mentor group that was here, we'll talk about this a lot more as we go on, but your yoga practice, your physical practice, is no longer for you at this point. It is for your students. You practice for your students. Your teaching is for you. Does that make sense? Anybody want to elaborate on that a little bit?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
If I'm doing double track, do I need to take 10 vinyasa as well as 10 hot, or can I do 10 of both, just
Nope.
one per week sort of a vibe?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to get confusing with all the numbers, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I think like an example I just brought up in our little group is, I heard, with having two small kids, like if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't like take care of, the little ones running around, getting burnt out. So I think the same thing kind of goes here, taking care of your practice yourself so that you can take care of your students.
Yeah, it's huge. That's a huge, huge component. The other thing is too, is if you are not moving your body and experiencing yoga, right, how can you then relate it to your students?
Right.
So keeping that muscle memory working, right? The actual muscle and the brain, right? And yeah, the other part of it is to just keep that learning going, right? So learning the sequence, hearing how other teachers cue, seeing how other teachers, teach their classes and things like that, and picking up little things that really, stick with you. So practice, practice, practice. Yoga through a fire hose. 2 outside classes for observation, so we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But I do want to give you an opportunity to just digest for a moment and think of any questions or anything like that.
I'll hand out the included log, handout log.
Okay. Go for it.
Under the homework section, one oral book report, that's just one, that's not one week, right?
No. That's the one
that
from
you
your
were
book
telling
of choice.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
The homework assignments will always be posted on the Facebook group, like what we're supposed to be doing.
The Facebook discussion question will be, yeah. So the homework, the longer term assignments, like the book report, and things like that, there's really not, the bulk of the homework is practice teaching, really, and reading the books and preparing for the next week's sections. So that's where the calendar comes in handy. So look at the calendar, see what you've got coming up. There will be homework, I call it homework in the chakras, right, with the air quotes, because the chakra homework is really just for you to have more experience with the chakra. We will talk about it in our check-ins, but sometimes it's literally take a bath. Go for a walk in nature.
By myself.
Yes, by yourself. Absolutely. I know. I've got a 2.5-year-old who's like, Mom's taking a shower? Right there with me.
I mean, showers loves that, so as long as it's a shower, I'm like, bye.
No, he loves it all. Yep. Yes, by yourself. But the chakra homework it's not something that we collect. It's not something that, that if you miss a week or you're not able to do it, like that's okay. You'll have some chakras that may be difficult for you to process, and you might say, I'm not in the mind frame to do this work right now, and you need to set it aside and know that that's okay. That's okay. But like, for the most part, your homework is practicing, reading, and getting ready for the weekend ahead of time. Okay. So if you flip over to 1.3, it says teacher training checklist. And so this is to keep you on track with due dates and things like that for upcoming assignments and longer term assignments. So again, we're going to talk more in depth about the class observations, but if you look up here, and these are all listed in the calendar as well, so look at the calendar if you need to. Saturdays, February 9th, 16th, March 16th, and March 30th, class observation forms are due. With those, don't hand them to me, because I will lose them. There is going to be, if you look over here by the computer, right behind the computer, that long cabinet, there's a double door cabinet right behind the computer. You'll see on the bottom a file folder holder. Yeah, that's a lot of words. But there will be a pink plastic folder that says teacher training homework. That is where all of that gets deposited. Okay? So if you have an observation that you need to turn in, you have to do makeup work, maybe you missed a workshop or something like that, and you have to turn something in, that is where it lives. Okay? I check it periodically to make sure that everything is going smoothly, but that's where it lives. Okay? Sunday, March 3rd, your yoga music mix will be due, and Austin will have a document for you on that he'll post on the Facebook forum that gives you some guidelines as to what that would look like. So don't stress too much about that. Some of you might be like, yeah, I can't wait, music, I love it. Another might be like, Psalms? What's that? So just know that you'll have some support with that. Sunday, March 31st, your oral book report is due. And that's, again, we get together, we meet in the book club format, and it's the book of choice from the reading list, and you tell me about it, or tell each other about it.
It's not like I can know about myself.
April 7th, our last day, your 10 class attendance printout, and I will show you as it gets closer how to print that out from our scheduler. Your in-class teaching and observation sign-off sheet, and all makeup work that was not previously turned in, that is when all of that is due. So your very last day of training, all of that straggler stuff is coming in. And then Sunday, the 14th of April, is your final assessment and exit interview due date by 5 p.m. And again, it says down here that these are due dates for longer term assignments, and they don't include your philosophy reading, your teaching weeks, your Facebook forum, journaling, and all that good stuff. Feeling okay? Feeling overwhelmed? Good. You're right where you should be. It's okay. Remember, you have 10 weeks. One day at a time, sometimes 1 minute at a time. Okay? All right. We'll talk about your checklist here in a moment, because it really just reiterates all the different things that we're talking about here. But let's talk about class observations and in-class teaching. Okay? So a couple times I've mentioned observations. And so how that works is you're required to do 4 observations total. 2 of them here at Cambio, 2 of them outside of Cambio. The ones at Cambio, you will bring your notebook or what have you, and you'll sit in the corner and you'll watch how the class goes. And there's specific questions around what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, and things like that, and you'll write your notes, okay? You want to contact the teacher beforehand to make sure that it's okay with them. And on that Google Classroom that I set up, there's a link for the most current teacher contact list. So it has their email, their phone number, things like that, so you can contact them and say, hey, I'm with the intensive teacher training. I'd love to sit in on your class and observe on this date and time. Is that okay? 9 times out of 10, we're going to say yes. If 4 of you ask us at the same time, we're going to have to say no to some of those. some of you. So just know that it gets a little bit tight with everybody coming on board at once. So,
Where did you say that list of teachers was?
it's on the Google Classroom. Ooh, was that, you that asked that? Yeah. So it's on the Google Classroom, and it lives there because we're constantly updating it. Yeah. Okay. So, as far as observations, there's a couple of restrictions with that. So if you look down at the last bullet point on this page, 1.4, it says students are not permitted to observe adaptive or curvy yoga. And you might have to participate, this doesn't work anymore because we don't do chair, but prenatal rather than sit and observe. And so Morgan will talk more about that with inclusion and adaptive yoga modules, but really it's, it's to keep those particular classes as a safe container for the students. And so, we ask that you don't observe those particular classes. We'll put a pin in that.
Righto.
Mm-hmm.
Righto.
Righto.
Okay, see you
I thought you were
guys.
saying right toe. I was like, right.
Have a good one.
That's right.
Just kidding.
Okay.
What's adaptive yoga?
We will be talking about adaptive yoga. It's specific to people with disabilities and progressive mobility restrictions. So later on in the program, we've got a whole module on adaptive yoga. Come to adaptive yoga.
Morgan wants you all
Be an
in
adaptive yoga teacher.
yoga.
Yes, so we'll talk about it.
But
You'll
just
hear me
know
talk about
that
it a lot.
with the observations, if you are vinyasa track, you want the observations to be, one of them has to be a vinyasa class. The other ones, let it be whatever you want. Okay, so if you're interested in yin, you're interested in gentle, power yoga, hot yoga, whatever you wanted to observe, you're welcome to observe without those restrictions. If you are doing both tracks, you still only do 4 observations total, but it gets a little bit more restricted because you need to observe 1 vinyasa and 1 hot in Campio. The outside observations, so outside studios, you do what you want to do. You want to observe wall yoga, go for it. You want to observe Iyengar yoga, go for it. It's really up to you as far as what you want to do. With those, most studios, if you walk in and you're like, I'm with teacher training, can I sit and observe your class? They're going to tell you no. So you take the class and then write your notes as soon as you can afterwards while it's fresh in your head. Okay? When you take it,
Sorry, can I say something?
Yeah,
about that?
please.
A lot of studios have like new student specials too, if you've never been there.
Yeah.
So like $20 for a week of classes, so that you can kind of get in on those kinds of deals and stuff too.
So, now along those lines, in the Google Classroom, if you are like electronically inclined, in the Google Classroom, I do have these set up as a form, an online form that you could fill out right online, and that's perfect. If you are more analog, in the manual itself are the questions, the prompts for the observations, so you're welcome to turn those in paper in the folder. So it's up to you which way you want to do it. Doesn't matter to me as long as they're all done. The only thing that I ask is that you don't bring a phone or a device into the classroom. Okay, so if you choose that you're going to do the digital format for it, that's awesome, that's great. Just don't sit there and make the teacher think you're texting. Okay? All right. In-class teaching. So throughout training, vinyasa only students I'm talking to right now so that we don't get super confusing. So vinyasa, you do 2 in-class teaching sessions, meaning you will pick a section of the sequence that you're learning to teach. You'll contact the teacher and say, hey, I would love to teach integration in your 5:45 Monday class. Is that okay? And I'll say, yeah, absolutely, come on, see you on Monday. And then you come in, I'll walk into the class, I'll do my announcements, and I will then introduce you as the teacher for integration. You'll teach integration, and then you'll go back to your mat and practice the rest of class or lay in Shavasana, whichever you need to do. So you'll do that twice. You can technically teach the same section twice, but I don't recommend it. I recommend starting out with integration, something that you know and that you've had practice with, and then challenging yourself. Maybe do a section that's larger or that you struggle with, but you have to have had the posture clinic in order to teach it, okay? So with that, the teacher that you decide that you want to teach with has to have 6 months teaching experience in order to do that. We have a lot of brand new teachers, a lot of teachers that just graduated from teacher training, and to have another student come in and teach a section in their class is probably going to be overwhelming for them. So we require that the teacher has 6 months teaching experience. All the teachers that are on the list, on that list on the Google Classroom, have 6 months teaching experience, okay? You don't need to worry so much about all the other designations next to their name or anything like that, because that's mostly for extended, because extended has different requirements where they have to observe and practice with teachers of different levels, so. Okay. Those of you doing double track, you get to teach 4 times. 2 with vinyasa and 2 with hot. Okay, and Morgan will talk to you more about the requirements with the hot track training.
And if you're only hot tracking, it's 2.
Okay.
We'll talk more.
Are you doing hot only? That's why I was confused.
Yeah. Oh, no,
By the end of today, I will get it all straight, I promise. Okay. Okay. Questions, concerns, comments about in-class teaching or observations?
For the outside studio observations, just one studio, you can do both observations, or you want to do different studios or different kinds of classes?
It's up to you. Okay. It's up to you. I recommend doing different studios so you can see how things go. The cool thing with that is one of those observations outside of Cambio, you can use one of the classes that we'll take at Shoshone. So I have one of the due dates set after the Shoshone visit, so you're welcome to use one of those classes. Yeah. Okay. How many observations total do you need to do?
2 if you're in
4
total.
4. So yeah,
Oh, 4
everybody does
outside
4.
teacher.
Yeah, where it gets sticky is if you're doing both tracks, it's 1 vinyasa and 1 hot at Cambio that you have to observe. 4 observations total. Vinyasa people, how many in-class teaches do you have to do? 2. Both tracks? 4. Hot track only, how many do you have to do? 2. All right. Now I'll let you know when you're going to teach those. Because we got everything. Okay, so if you look at page 1.5, you have a little sign-off here for your observations and your in-class teaching. So previously, I didn't have students get sign-off for the observations, but because you're going to be able to do it in 2 different formats, I want you to have the teacher sign off on the observations at Cambio. The teacher for the outside observations does not have to sign off, that's fine, but for the observations, have the teacher sign off. In-class teaching, so look down mentor group assignments. So mentor group A is Morgan's group. Mentor group B is Suzanne's group. Mentor group C is Anna's group. And then D is my group, Amber's group, and Austin's group.
All 3?
All 3, yeah.
You guys are, okay.
Well,
Same group or?
Yeah, count us as the same group because I have 2, Austin has 1 person, and Amber has 1 person.
Oh.
So, yeah, with opening the new studio, we've got a lot on our plates.
So how far, since we know what weeks we're doing, how far in advance do we need to reach out to the teachers to teach in class?
I would give them
Like
at
a week or
least
2?
a day.
Oh,
I mean, you
okay.
can go as far out as you want to. I would just remind the teacher as
Okay.
it gets closer, because if you tell me 2 weeks in advance,
Yeah, that's what I was
I'm
thinking.
gonna be
How are
like,
you gonna remember?
you're gonna show up and I'm gonna be like, oh, You're doing that today.
That's right.
Hi, so nice to see you. Oh, you're teaching, okay. Okay, yeah. So weeks 2 and 6 is mentor group A. Weeks 3 and 7 is mentor group B. C has 4 and 8, and then D has 5 and 9.
What does that mean?
That means those are the weeks that, who asked that? Sorry.
You did.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the weeks that you're going to do the in-class teach.
Okay.
So those of you that are in Morgan's group, right, you're in week 2, so that means next week, not this week, so starting next Sunday is week 2. But you're only going to have integration and Sun A under your belt, or pranayama and warm-ups. And what comes after that? Is it just pranayama and warm-ups?
Balancing, so it's just pranayama and warm-ups.
Yeah, so you're not going to have a whole lot to choose from, so you're going to have to start out with, the first section. So many people have gone through this, and so many people have gone to other classes and taught those small sections. I mean, have you come here and had that happen in class before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody claps for you at the end. It's such a supportive community, honestly. Nobody's going to be like, oh my God, they're doing this again. I promise you. Everybody's supportive. You'll get pats on the back when you come out. It's one of the things. So I tend to be a very introverted, very shy person, very soft-spoken, and like stepping into somebody else's class and ripping the Band-Aid off and teaching part of a class was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it just forced me to just get over myself and just do it. I probably sweat like 4 gallons of liquid out of my body, but but it's okay. And then you have the whole class to like compose yourself and all of that. So know that it's a super supportive environment. It's not meant to knock you down or anything like that. And it's really not, the first time you do it, it's not about getting feedback, like, tell me how I did and all that. It's just about getting in there and getting the experience. And it's one of my favorite parts of this program because, like, really, if you go through 10 weeks of teacher training and you learn the theory of teaching, but you've never stepped foot in a class, and then you get a job and you're like, huh, well, this is all new, isn't it? It really sets you up for success when you get out on your own. So it's nerve-wracking, but you have lots of support behind you. Is anybody like really looking forward to doing that? Yeah? That's awesome. Can you tell me how you get excited about that?
Yeah,
I'm sweating for you thinking about it. Oh. It's so funny. And it's funny, like, I don't tend to get really nervous when I teach anymore, but when I have one of you coming into my class to teach, I'm so nervous. Like, I get so nervous for you. I'm just like, I don't know how to teach yoga anymore. Somebody help me. But it's just a really fun thing. So, so that's that.
What is that? I mean, I'm just confused. What does it look like to teach as a group? Like, what does it look like? I don't understand exactly.
Oh, so that's just when you schedule it. So you're not, like, your whole mentor group is not in there at the same time teaching a section.
Oh.
That's just that having you schedule it during those weeks, like within your group, just helps us so that we don't have 18 people wanting to teach
right. That's
in
just
one
when we're
week.
scheduling it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's a good
I'm
question.
all caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so confused.
Although when you do your friends and family class, you do teach as a group, but we'll talk about that as it gets closer. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just when we're scheduling it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Feeling good about the requirements and everything like that? Okay. If you haven't yet joined the Google Classroom, please do so. There's information on how to do that on the Facebook forum, so that you have access to the materials. Even if you want the binder printed, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you're still on there, because that's where a lot of material is housed for you. So if you're like, I know she sent this, but I can't find it, it's on there, okay? Like if you're looking for the calendar, it's all on there, all that good stuff. Cool. contracts and payment plans. So if you've paid in full, I want you to take a moment and read over the contract. If you have questions on the contract, any concerns, anything like that, come and let me know. But what it basically says is payment here is, so you've paid the deposit, or if you've paid in full, what have you, you've paid the deposit and the remaining balance of, and it's left blank for you to fill out. If you need your balance, if you haven't paid in full, let me know. I can get that for you easily. Those of you that are doing the MICA, the MyCAA, just write in the remaining balance of 0, so that way, because I gotta do something completely different for that. So write in 0. And then the second page is the signature page, because it just kind of spilled over there. And then if you know that you would like to do payments, if you would like to make a payment plan, I have an extra sheet for you, so you're welcome to come up and get that. Payment plans, if I haven't explained that to you, it's really up to you. You're the one that sets the terms for it. You're the one that makes the payments on your schedule. I'm not going to come hounding you or anything like that. I don't have a great way to set up automatic payments, although I can look at it if that's going to work better for you. I can try and make the scheduler work for me one of these days, and we can look at that. But my stipulation with it is that the balance is paid in full by the last day of training. If something comes up beyond that, just talk to us, okay? But other than that, we'll get you rolling here. And then the last thing, paperwork-wise, that I need from all of you is your known conflicts. So if you know that you're going to be missing some time, just write it down on a sheet of paper. I'll get a sheet of paper going so that we don't have to waste a bunch of paper. But write it down for me just so that I know, and I'll put that in attendance. Does anyone here know that they will not miss a day? Plan it on
Sure.
Okay.
That's the case.
Okay. The only reason why I'm asking is because I'll have an attendance sheet, and there's so many different teachers coming in and out that I don't want to rely on the teachers taking attendance.
Mm-hmm.
So if one of you would like to take attendance for me every day, that would be great. The attendance sheet will be taped to the front of the pink homework folder. So if you can remember, between those of you that'll be here to do attendance for me every day, that'll be awesome. Because I won't remember. So take one of each and pass it on down, and I might need to print an extra one. And then if you know that you're going to do payment plan, I'm just going to put this right here. And you're welcome, oh my goodness, to grab it as you need it. And those of you, like I said, if you need your balance, let me know. I'm happy to get you more information. Okay, we can do that.
Oh,
Make sure that
yeah, I was just gonna write that mine after. Okay.
What'd you put for your word?
Nice.
Good word.
Brianna,
My initial thought was teacher, but
Yeah.
that's so generic. Yeah. That's a good one. Thank you.
Alright, maybe like
I just didn't understand her.
What do you want to do for it? I'm like, let her do it. I don't care.
Today's glorious.
John, what's your last name?
Williams.
Williams.
Oh, thank you.
John, do we have your email on file? Sorry.
Just give the contract to Kristen. Yeah.
I did.
Here? Are you happy with it?
I just wanna make sure that you're.
Great. Terry. Good work.
These aren't complete, maybe, or I don't know. There's like a second page, but there's only one item, there's third.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get
Signature sections.
I was like all like jawline, like
Yeah.
okay. Do you see your right first? I do my first.
That was it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she said she was short, so she could.
That's the sign started.
Yeah, I'll get more,
She has, he has it, but just Donna and I. Maybe
I need the second.
Yeah, this is just
Bobby
good.
pin when you sat down? Any to stick together?
She only had one of those, she only had one.
I have to be finished.
No, I mean, there wasn't any extra second pages.
Oh, I don't know, but she said she would need to print some more out.
Okay. The one that's I'm gonna go get a printer.
Hi.
Are you here for the teach?
Yeah, Morgan said to be up here at 12:45. I know
Okay.
it's downstairs, but she said
Yeah.
be up here, so.
Yeah, let's go down. We'll take you downstairs because she's down there already.
Okay.
You can either wait here. She's coming back to get them.
I think that's what, yeah, she definitely said up here at 12:45. So I'm like, okay, never go downstairs.
Look at you.
I know, am I at 12:45?
You're 12:42. You're even early,
Oh.
which is really on time in my mind.
Oh, okay.
5 minutes early is on time.
Okay. I'm just happy if I didn't.
There's Morgan.
There's
right now.
Morgan.
She's here.
I'm here. Business here. Yay! I'm so glad.
I just went down and turned everything on.
I know they kept saying, nope, don't. I said, nope, get it clear.
Yep.
I'll sit right here.
Yep. We meet up here, they're doing contracts, classes at 1, so.
So is this all hobbies or is this,
No, this is
both?
everybody for intensive, yep, and we have 6
How many,
hot trackers from this group,
how
and
many
then 2
more contracts,
extenders.
second
So you and Amy.
Just two. Just the second
Amy,
page.
there's not too many Amy's, and I know I've done yoga with an Amy several times. So I'll play stage with her.
Yeah, and I know if I see her.
On the bottom of those, sheets, it might have gotten stuck in there.
Yeah, so they were swapping.
Because I printed out the.
Because with stuff.
That must be tough to do it straight through. I mean, that's like how many nights a week? Like, or is it all day on the weekends and then?
Yeah, it's, so if someone is double tracking.
Oh, right.
it's 8 for hot, and then 12:30 to 4:30 for everything else.
And then I will
And
get
then
you
10
all
for on
copies
Sunday.
of your
And
contacts.
then Tuesday
just so
nights
that you
from
have
6 to
them.
9. And then we also knows Thursdays.
Just write it on
Come
here.
toward the tail end of the program. So we also have hot track for Thursday, this is the desk modifications.
Yeah, once I bring it all in.
I'll hand out the schedule and everybody else.
Yeah, I think there's just
I'll
one
be right
weekend
back.
for sure that I thought I can make it. Yeah, when that happens, yeah. I'm pretty
Is everybody's
excited.
picture? Where's your pictures, people?
I thought about it a long time, and then when this crashed, I was about to then, and then that happened.
Does anybody
And it was
require
Skip
a
Suzanne,
retake?
oh,
I
you
don't
can still do,
mind.
and I said, I
You
can
require a
hardly,
retake.
I can't even move. Like, I said, no, I'll be visible. I can't even sit in orientation. And she was like, really? I said, no. So I just hung about 3 more months so that I could move around. And,
What's his name? Where's he at? Oh.
you want one printed in color, it's this.
So you
want
move
one
it.
printed.
Right,
It's
like,
like,
I
I'm
know.
like, I don't know.
There's a little, I'm the one that's probably
Yeah.
up for technological challenge
Oh.
questions and from what's probably attached with so definitely need that print.
I don't know what on earth was going on in my room either, and I was like,
I'm like trying to get through all of them, so printing out is gonna be helpful. Yeah, thanks, I get it.
Do you like it here better than the Texas so far?
And then,
I like it.
Okay, I'm gonna get that all together towards the end
Yay.
of the day.
Well, thanks for taking the drive down. That's cool.
Actually, you know what, let me do that right now.
What's that?
the drive.
There's a gallery.
I don't want to answer something. No.
She did a schedule.
Put it right in the
And I was like,
yeah.
people who have a little bit wired commute actually have a benefit because it's to leave the training. And also prepare yourself on the way.
So, actually, what I was I mean, our class is like all the last year getting work that we're.
I signed up 3 days
ago. That's one of the, that's a place
Awesome.
to like, super shoots and stuff.
Way to go.
Yeah, so,
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. No, that's just a, oh, good. Just red light.
well, not anymore though.
Yeah.
No,
don't worry.
well, not always, not always, sometimes there will be a break, but not always. So look at the calendar and it'll tell you if there's gonna be a break schedule. It just depends on
Well, if
how
you
we
enjoy
want
it, yeah,
to
no,
schedule.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's why we say you're free to eat and take care of what you need to do at any time.
These are wonderful pictures,
Okay,
people.
class is gonna start right now.
Yeah.
I know, I'm already starting.
Yes.
That only leaves me 5 minutes on it. Why don't I just break it into the class? I'll just take like
So I'll eat coffee and food and like all sorts of things for my body.
I never sit down, I rarely sit still, so sitting still for an hour. Like through the practice, like real, super.
Oh, we're only practicing for an hour. So we practice 1 to 2,
How
and
many-
2 to 4 you'll do posture.
Okay.
That'd be the best time if you need to take a break.
Oh, yeah, your doctor must be very busy. That's what's perfect. That's really cool.
So I would say, you guys, since we're gonna start in 10 minutes, if you want to, you can set your mat up and just get ready. You know, change if you need to or whatever. We're gonna do it that way. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll do a yoga practice. That is an hour.
I don't know.
The 2 hours.
I'm just gonna look around and see
we'll
if
be back
someone looks
here.
like they know.
And that's gonna be like,
We don't.
where we'll break this
We
down.
don't. You're like, I
It's like the first 2 poses.
We're all
Break those down.
Can I have you all
Practice
listen
that.
real
That'd be a
quick?
good time.
Real quick.
Yeah.
If you miss class, in the manual, towards the back of the manual, when you look at it online, there's makeup work, whatever thing that you missed. Okay, so if you know that you're gonna miss a weekend, there's makeup work there for you. Generally, if you miss a class, you write a paper. So you'll look on the calendar and see what classes it is that you're gonna miss. And then in the manual, huh?
I said that's
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
You have those?
Cocoa powder should be fine.
So you'll actually, there might be some time where you can, let's talk about it as it gets a little bit closer, because you're gonna have just a bit of.
I
was like, you brought peanut butter all over.
Oh, no, all I eat is peanuts and
Yeah. Yeah, because I gotta get that, so walking out of it, or
I do that.
I'm like, space. I just went to the all the time about it. It's like, I can't. Zero interest. You're still I know. It's there. Oh yeah, I saw it. But I think that's how you get like the zero pressure week classification.
No, not yet.
I don't care here.
Not yet.
But if you want to
Some
choose,
people would get up at 3.
it's usually really know.
So the last 2 Thursdays, then do I give them
Our heaters, like our first,
take it and
second
make copies
crap
for
out
everybody
of
while you guys
parts
are doing yoga.
Awesome.
But we got it.
I'm glad you made it. So I was worried about keeping my kids warm, and I'm like, I wanted to, but we had the first people came during my scheduled reading time. I told my husband, I was like, take the toddler, the baby will nap, I'll read, it'll be great. And then I called you, I said,
Just go down there, when you go
then
down
they
there.
can't come out till Monday, so my mind has been like,
Okay.
kids being a little tired, sleeping, are they? 3 and 1. Oh, cute. They're awesome. The baby is like super happy all the time. She's sick right now, but still super good. And my toddler is just like me. So I just my kids are really sorry. How old is my hold on. Yeah, when is your 3-year-old birthday? Hold on, how old is my 3-year-old? Hold on. Maybe there's more of the question. November 29th. So she's still a fresh 3.
Yeah,
Mine are almost 4.
Okay, am I going downstairs? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, I think that it's so crazy to look at like a young 2 to a older 2 than a young 3 to a older 3. You're like, I'm looking forward to that. You're actually like not
Yes, the door is locked right now, so it's very different, that's for sure. They just ran down and ready for it.
Okay, no, right, I just didn't want to be in that spot.
Like irrational tantrums have slowly started going away. Will come find you. Will tell us more and more what she wants. Good. You know? Right? I mean, you know, I always think about twins. I'm like, you know, double the amount of work, but they have each other.
They do.
It's kind of nice.
And sometimes that's.
I just like, yeah.
Especially now that they'll be 4 in April, so like they play together really well.
All right.
If I don't do something for a while,
Yeah.
okay, what's
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Someone's in trouble. What's going on?
No, ours is just.
Sunday or something.
Yeah, no, I definitely just asked the same question. I was like, am I?
Celine, I think is the
Oh, no.
only
How long have we
single hot
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Celine, what that means is on Tuesday nights, you
You guys all have your mats in there?
after
We're hot.
You're hot.
Oh, okay. For some of them, don't like quote me on all of them, but when it's like adjusting or sequencing,
I think the restaurant didn't even know
you
what
are free to go. You are
So
welcome
now
to
we're
stay
just
here.
That's not my thing.
I'm not yet. Oh, I
Initially, double trackers had like,
Thinking
like,
about it. Actually, probably gonna go longer.
Oh my god.
It's
It's so funny that
It's, so Tuesdays you'll be.
like, it's like, oh, you know what I'm doing? Just follow person friend.
Cut out when they do the videos.
They're
and
wrong,
stuff.
you're wrong, they're
Thursday is not specific.
Okay.
From 6 to
That's not really your fault.
So look at the calendar and if it
Yeah.
says adjusting or sequencing part 1 and part 2 or the core posture clinic, you can leave.
And that's like
Tuesdays.
Oh my gosh, okay, I'll have to look at, I'm so visual, so I'm
All-
like, you're telling me about.
I'll write it all down for you.
Yeah, I've got it in the, I have it in our schedule.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
I have everything all written out.
Okay. I just thought I wanted to do it. I'm like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it
Okay.
as hard as I can. Like
That's what I did too. That's what I did too.
Okay, where's my hot trackers?
It's getting hot in here.
It is. We're gonna go downstairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the doors should be locked there.